equity. My parents hail from Modakeke, but raised all their children in Ibadan. My early beginning revolved around Inolinde, where I spent my infancy, and which harbored Ebenezer Primary School that I attended. It was a life of school and football, kite flying and sand dunes molded from a foot stuck into the sandy ground. Okoto was a plaything, just like Agbalumo seed. My primary school lay parallel to Igboagala, which housed the iconic colonial-era Bowers Tower, a high-rise rotunda with spiral tiers set on a hill and which played host to visitors and tourists and could be seen from every nook of the ancient city. A saying dedicated to this tower against those not conversant with the complexity of the city is Ibadolomo or Molayipo, meaning that you only know Ibadan but not the Bowers Tower, which locals called Layipo due to its rotunda nature and because you have to climb up its zenith in a spiral stairs. Inolinde was communal by every sense of it. Every naming ceremony or traditional wedding, freedom from apprenticeship or sundry events did not require formal invites. Such events were for the community and children were expected to attend, huddled together in a choreographed manner around large bowls of rice as a couple of gazing sheep and bleating goats waited in the wing to pounce on leftovers. Muslim and Christian festivals were actively celebrated by all irrespective of religious lineage. Ramadan was a time we looked forward to as children of Christian faith because we would wake up to eat Sahari, and some evenings were filled with itinerant musicians who played were, a Fuji genre with Islamic lyrical underpinnings. Sikiru Ayinde, later called Barrister, was a regular team lead in the locality in those days. Will I forget the good old days of Egungun festivals when we followed Ololu or Alakpanshopa or Atikpako, all dreaded masquerades from Inolinde to Bere and Makbo, sucking in their superlative acrobatic displays and guttural incantations. Young folks, especially those from humble background like me, found the serendipity of Ibadan around the 70s and the 80s. Odo Dandaru, a stream on the fringe of Mokola, was our swimming bay, and the elevator of Kingsway in Dugbe was our playground. Except for Cocoa House and a couple of high-rise buildings, the skyline was not dotted with skyscrapers, yet the serenity of Ibadan was profound and the security unimpeachable. Family values were strong in my good old days. During school holidays, we would follow our father to his farm in Idiya, a village settlement in the outskirts of Ibadan. Farms were not an attractive sector to kidnappers or armed robbers then. It was fun in the farm, making small fires to roast corn or yam or rabbit caught by midnight traps. In the twilights of the day, while going back to the village from the farm or sitting around the fireplace in the village hut, Father would regale us with stories of life, wisdom nuggets and politics of yore. It was in one such sitting I knew the plant called Akintola Taku, so named because of the political crisis of the 60s. At other times, we followed Mother to Dugbe Market, where she traded in stockfish. I went to Ibadan Polytechnic, Ogun State Polytechnic, and the University of Ibadan. And in my trajectory, educational value was in the quality. Handphones and other modern gadgets of pleasure were few, so there were less distractions. There was nobility of character among students and lecturers. Cultism, sex for marks, student prostitution, and absenteeism were only hush words, unlike now that those vices are threatening the survival of the academia. Our children need to know how we roll back in the days and begin to invent a more quality life. They deserve better today and brighter future. so that they can also have their own good old days in the fullness of time. I believe we need collective efforts to ensure that we make the difference in the lives of our youth now for a better tomorrow. That is why I am joining Sir Shemore Badijo in this patriotic drive. How about you? Won't you rather join us? Thank you.
Nigerian journalists deserve better deal, says National Human Rights Commission. And on the issue of zoning, there have been calls for South presidency. This is Plus Politics, and I am Mary Anna Cole. The National Human Rights Commission has said that Nigerian journalists deserve a better deal in the discharge of their constitutional duties. According to them, the press, which battled hard to return Nigeria to its current democratic status and continues to struggle to sustain democracy and development, has to be supported in order to successfully execute its constitutional duties as the society's watchdog. Now, the International Press Center, the IPC, on the occasion of this year's World Press Freedom Day, also joined the global community to raise concerns about the press freedom violations. Well, joining us to discuss this and more is Wemimo Adeomi. She is a broadcast journalist and she's the host of Table Talk on 99.3 Nigeria Info Lagos. And also joining us is Sunny Dada. He's the head Free Expression and Pluralism Institute for Media and Society, and he's also a Rotary Peace Fellow. Thank you very much, gentlemen and lady, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to start with you, Sunny, before I go to Wemimo. Can you say for certain that Nigeria is a press-free country? Now, I'm asking this question because you have traveled to other countries as a journalist, and you have seen how media is being practiced in other countries, comparing Nigeria to other countries on the continent. How free can you say that the press, the average pressman, is?
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Mariana. And once again, good evening to your audience. There are a number of issues regarding press freedom in Nigeria, especially when you compare the practice, the way it is done in other climes, like you said. But the summary is that we are still not free. There are a number of factors we're going to be looking at, factors such as factors that has to do with the environment, the practice environment and the legal environment. Within the legal environment, we still have policies, we still have laws that continue to interfere or continue to deplete freedom of expression, laws that continue to gag the press, laws that continue to stand as hindrances to access to information and even free expression. Within the practice environment, we still have issues that has to do with safety of journalists. We still contend with issues that has to do with welfare of journalists, and all of that. So when you put all of this together, you see that we are very, very far from being free.
We've seen what's happened in several countries in terms of journalists. I mean, let's still stay with the African continent. We've seen journalists being jailed in Egypt. We've seen journalists being jailed in some parts of Central Africa, in South Africa, East Africa, even in West Africa. And we've also seen the media somewhat not, run the stories of happenings within their domain within Africa. But in Nigeria, we still see the media reporting on certain things, even though we're still asking for a level of freedom. Now, let's talk about the management of our media space. In the past few months, even last year, we've seen several bills come out in terms of how the media should be managed. We saw the social media bill, we saw the media bill, a lot of water under the bridge as at today. How do you think that we as journalists, and even the Nigerian people that we broadcast to, being also the fourth estate of the realm, have been able to influence the management of the media in Nigeria?
Well, I'm happy that you have made a reference to, excuse me, to the regulatory framework. What you just talked about has to do with the regulatory framework. For instance, do you know that there is still an amendment proposal to the National Broadcasting Commission Act, which is the NBC Act, at the National Assembly. And there is a provision in that proposal that talks about digital access. Now, this digital access says that any moment, once the amendment becomes a law, that every Nigerian will have to pay for digital broadcast content. Now, that is not a challenge. The challenge is that the money that will be generated from that payment will be shared amongst three tiers: the signal distributor, the regulator, which is the NBC, and national broadcast entities. Now, the signal broadcaster, the signal distributor will take 40%, the regulator will take 40%. The national broadcasting entities will share 10%. Who are the national broadcasting entities? The FRCN and the NTA. So it means that even though Nigerians can access your content, Plus TV content, you will not have any right, you will not have any share of the money they are going to pay. So there is a systematic strangulation, of the private sector, of the private broadcast media, that is as represented by IBON, the Broadcast Organization of Nigeria. So then again, there are also challenges with the regulator when you talk about regulatory independence and financial independence. All of these things are elements of control mechanism, on the broadcast industry. Even if you look at the proposed NPC Act, but I don't want to go there now because there is so much focus on the broadcast sector. So the regulatory independence, for instance, that the NBC lacks, where, the Director General of the Commission will still have to take permission from the Minister for Information and Culture, if he has to do his work. In other words, if you look at the NBC Act, under the second schedule, under the first schedule rather, it talks about where the Minister for Information and Culture can give directives to the Director General, irrespective of what the directives are. Which means that if the Minister for Information and Culture, for instance, wakes up one morning and no longer feels comfortable with Plus TV, all he needs to do is just to call the DG and tell the DG to either revoke your license or to shut you down or to issue a warning. And to us, it's a strategy, it's a control mechanism on the media, And again, if you look at the mode of appointments into the commission, appointments are done directly by the executive. We are saying that is a control mechanism. Appointments should be done by the National Assembly with contributions from stakeholders drawn from the industry. Amongst those on the board, on the NBC board, you have the presence of the DSS. Where we keep asking, why is the DSS on the board of the NBC? So we'll continue to talk about it. Let's also, deviate a bit to the policy angle. If you look at Section 95 of the recently passed Electoral Act, the 2022 Electoral Act, when you look at Section 95, I think from 2 to 4, when you read, you will discover the kind of draconian penalties that are stated there, targeting individual journalists, targeting the media house. That is, if there is a failure to provide fair and equitable coverage for every political party in the electoral process. There are very severe draconian penalties that have been put in place, some of which has to do with, payment of fines running into millions of naira, some of which has to do with, jail terms, prescribed jail terms, and all of that.
So what I see from all that you're laying out is a lot of arm twisting by the government or the leadership.
Yes, that's what we are talking about. So when you talk about press freedom, I'm laying all of these issues on the table because I listened to the interview granted by the Minister for Information and Culture when the World Press Freedom Index was released a few weeks ago. I listened to him where he mentioned a number of things, where he said that the media in Nigeria is free, that it is only in Nigeria, a national daily decided to took a decision that they will no longer describe or call the president a president, but that they are going to, call him by his military title, which is general. That if it were in other claims, they would have shut down that media station. So I'm just laying all these tables on the ground to let everybody know that it is not because that we're not seeing journalists being thrown into jail at all times, even though we have seen some, the Agba Jalingo case, the Showere case, and all of that, the John Sabiri, we can go on and on.
We will get to that point. But I want to toss to Wemimo. Wemimo, I'm going to put you in a box that you probably not like. Being a woman, being in this business, being on the field, a journalist, you host a show alone. You do not have a pair, a guy, sitting next to you to make it look like, you have somebody to protect you. You're doing the show alone. I want to quote you, you break tables on your show. Now, looking at what Sunday has said, especially with, coverage and certain things that would attract fines. How easy has it been for you, existing in this particular field as a woman journalist? Did you hear anything I said? I think that we lost connection.
Well, to be very frank, I'll start off by saying that the president...
Go ahead.
Yes, I did. Can you hear me?
Yes. Wemimo, are you still there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Well, I think that we're having a little connection issue with Wemimo. We'll try to see what we can do to fix that and get her back in. But let me come back to you, Sunday. So we were talking about these issues of, the laws that might, or bills that might become law. Now, what is the media doing about this? And if you notice, that most of these draconian laws or clauses and phrases within these bills are mostly targeted at the broadcast media. The print seems to be, enjoying some certain level of freedom, especially during the EndSARS situation. Media houses were the hardest hit, but then the print media just went ahead to print whatever they wanted to.
Your observation is quite correct, and it is not. I think it has excuse me. It has a history. The print has always been traditionally very vibrant. If you look at the years of dictatorship in this country, it was a print. Even though the media will take the glory, the entire sector will take the glory. But if you look at it very well, you discover that the print, actually fought the battle, took the battle to the doors of the military. So traditionally, the print has always been that, vibrant and even more difficult, in terms of regulation, And but let's look at why there is so much interest on the broadcast media. You know that more people listen to the broadcast media compared to the print, and that's because of issues of illiteracy mainly. The average header, the average farmer goes to the farm with a small radio, where he can listen to news and all of that. But he does not have the luxury of, buying a newspaper every day. And especially in communities where the literacy level is not so good. So it is normal that people will tend towards the broadcast media. And because broadcast media will naturally get such attention, naturally get a bigger audience, it is expected that there will be so much attention from regulators and policy makers, on the broadcast sector. Now, you talked about what journalists are doing or media organizations are doing. The Broadcasting Organization of Nigeria, BON, I remember that also made submission last year during the proposed amendment hearing. There was a public hearing, and I know that I can still remember that BON was fully represented. My organization was also, as a matter of fact, we organized, before that hearing, we held a national summit where we brought together the Broadcasting Organization of Nigeria and the members of the NBC, where we had a proposed amendment, to some of the clauses that we think that limit media freedom, and by,
And has there been a follow-up? Because it's one thing to put out amendments or adjustments, but is there a follow-through? Because, if we want something done, we have to go ahead and get it done ourselves. So are we putting that much pressure?
Of course. There is a follow-up. A lot of things a lot of work is being done, at the background. A lot of things are being done, the engagement is still ongoing. The Broadcast Organization of Nigeria, for instance, recently held their, what do you call it? Is it the annual conference or so, where they also laid these issues before the Director General of the Commission, and all of that. So things have been done, even though a lot could have been done better, you know. And if things are not moving the way they are supposed to move, you should also understand why. You know, there are political dynamics, there are cultural dynamics, there are religious dynamics, a lot of dynamics, you know, involved in this. Then the ownership dynamics, you know, and all of that. So when you put all of these things together, you would understand, of course, why things may not move the way ordinarily they should move. But I like to let you know that stakeholders are not keeping quiet. Stakeholders are talking. If not that we spoke out, you know, the social media bills you earlier talked about, you know, would have become lost by today. And maybe we may not even be having this conversation by now. You know, so
I can imagine.
So work is ongoing, and that's why it's good that we continue to talk about it. You know, at every opportunity we have, we talk about it. You know, to draw the attention of, you know, policymakers and stakeholders.
All right, I think we have Wamimo back. Wamimo, can you hear me now? Unfortunately, we lost you for a second. Wamimo, can you hear me? I think that we are having connection problems with Wamimo. Unfortunately, Wamimo, we apologize. I'm sure that the internet is on your end is a bit shaky. But let's talk about the working conditions. Remember that you mentioned it in the opening, the working conditions. Yeah, I go to places sometimes when I'm telling stories or, you know, interviewing people. Half the time they say the media is not doing their job. You're not doing investigative journalism. We need you to do more investigative journalism. So I'm going to throw it to you. Why are we not having more investigative journalism stories? And also I see also that we are lacking in follow-ups. You know, we put out a story, it's great, it gets the kind of reaction that we want, but then there's never really, you know, follow through. You know, there are no follow-ups to continue to develop that story. What do you think the major challenges are in terms of, you know, following the stories wherever it goes?
Yes, I remember that when I started, I talked about the practice environment. And I talked about welfare, you know, in the practice environment. I talked about safety of journalists. What I didn't talk about is professionalism, the issue of professionalism. Journalism presently in Nigeria is suffering massively, you know, from the challenge of professionalism. Journalism, we used to say, when I sit down with, you know, colleagues and we talk about journalism, you know, in fact, a few months ago, we were in Accra for African Freedom of Expression annual general meeting. And there, excuse me, you know, we were just having a conversation regarding journalism in Nigeria. And it became very clear that journalism in Nigeria is an all-commerce affair. Why is it an all-commerce affair? It's only in journalism where you see somebody who read an engineering course or maybe a medical course, you know, practicing as either a broadcaster or a reporter, you know, doing stories, you know, somebody who probably read psychology in school, you know. So there is the lack of, what should I say, standardization, you know. So all of these things, you know, pose a very serious challenge, you know, in terms of staying on stories and following up on stories. You know, it is not enough to break the story. We say stay on the story.
But what about the environment in which you work in? Because it's one thing to...
I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that. I'm just, you know, painting a picture of the professional landscape, you know. Now, other issues within the environment, which has to do with welfare of journalists. And that is also key. When you talk about press freedom, you know, most times we look at the policy issues, which most times looks like the bigger issues. But the actual issues, you know, has to do with welfare of journalists. If a journalist is hungry, of course, it will be very easy to compromising. You know, we have a lot of media houses that no longer pay journalists. We have a very big national daily, I don't want to mention name, where they give you the ID card and they tell you that this identity card we have given you is your meal ticket. Invariably, what are they saying? You know, go out to the field, collect brown envelopes, bring the story and all of that. So how do you do serious investigative journalism in such environment? For God's sake, the journalist is a human being. You know, he's a product of the society. So if he's coming back home, his children expect to see bread, expect to see him coming back home with bread. He has to put food on the table. So if you don't pay his salary, if you don't give him, the right motivation, it is expected that naturally he work out something for himself, either by any means, Then how many media organizations, how many media houses still buy work tools for their journalists? For instance, midgets, I know a lot of journalists in Port Harcourt who bought midgets with their own money to do their own work. They pay their transport to Beats, and all of that. So when you put all of these things together, all of these challenges that the average Nigerian journalist is grappling with, of course, we can say that he is trying, because it is our thinking that some of these things are also deliberate. They're a way of, gagging, the journalist from doing his work, limiting his potential, So when you talk about investigative journalism, why there is an absence of investigative journalism, I'm trying to let you know that there is a lot of investment you need to put in before you can do a serious investigative journalism.
Okay, all right.
Without risking your life.
All right, let me just try again. I think we now have Wemimo joining us on the phone. Wemimo, can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly.
Apologies. Welcome to the connection services in Nigeria. But let me go back to the question that I asked earlier on. I mean, I'm sure that you listened to most of the things that Sunny said. Most importantly, as a woman who is operating in the environment that we find ourselves, knowing how hostile it is, knowing how competitive, very competitive it is, how easy do you think for you it has been? And would you say that that would be the case of every other woman? And he's also painted a picture of the fact that for some people in Nigeria, your identity card is your meal ticket. How do you even get respect as a journalist if this is how we're seen?
All right, thank you, Mary. So I must say that I've listened to what the other person has said, and I must disagree with some of those points. I think we have quite a notion that we do not have enough professionals in Nigerian media. I totally disagree with that. I've been in this sector for about 12 years, and also as a media trainer, I can tell you that we have quite a huge number of professionals in this country. We have people who have done massive stories that have generated impact in their local communities. We also have both local NGOs, media NGOs, and international funding stories. I've done quite a number of investigative reporting stories. I've trained about 300 journalists in this country across Southwest Nigeria, and I can see the impact of the work that they're doing. The challenges are there, and I know that, in terms of funding and getting resources to go further, one of the biggest problems I see, though, is the lack of training for journalists. So in most media houses, there isn't a plan to train journalists, or there isn't a funding. There isn't source funding for stories. So most journalists need to go get grants to run their own stories. That might be one of the biggest challenges. But I think that despite this, that we still have journalists who hold their head high. I work in this space every day, and I must say that I'm entirely proud of my colleagues across both broadcast, digital, and print media. I see them challenging status quo. It's a very tough terrain to work in Nigeria. We have rankings showing that Nigeria is one of the worst countries in which you can't ever work as a journalist. That's scary enough. I've had investigative stories that I first to drop because there were targets against my children, And again, like you pointed out, being a female in this industry, there are even much more limitations because you have a lot more things to consider than, a man would. But it is a job. And those of us who have sworn to defend this country and to uphold the truth and also give a voice to the yearnings of the people, we keep at it every day. I must say that when I heard the president say yesterday, telling his media aides to make information available to journalists, I think that tells you the situation of things. If it takes a commander-in-chief to give a directive to make information available, then you know that we have a big problem. I have had to make use of the Freedom of Information Act, and I must tell you that it was quite a challenge. For government at all levels, they see journalists as their enemies. I've had government officials ask me to my face, Which party do you work for? Why do you want to know? I mean, I was simply asking information about the number of schools that we have in Lagos. That appears innocuous, but apparently I was told to my face, why do you want data unless our opponent has sent you? So that's the eye with which most government officials approach issues. Again, this is one of our biggest problems. This is what leads to the stifling of the media. You see laws that are apparently raised to deter freedom of the press. So giving a directive is not enough. We need to see the action. We need to see that, indeed, I can tell a story without my life being threatened. After the NSAS, many media organizations were sanctioned for even covering the NSAS protest. Tell me about the freedom of the press.
Interesting, because we're almost out of time. I'll just pose this last question to you, Wemimo. I've seen journalists disappear. I've seen many arrested, bullied. I can never get that video out of my head of FFK and a journalist who asked him who was funding, you know, or who was bankrolling him. And we saw the reaction that he got. We've seen all these kinds of things happen. Do we see us as a country, you know, do you see a time where Nigeria will go past this, you know, situation that we've seen ourselves in? I mean, most people would tell you that it's better today, but will we see a better and freer press in Nigeria telling the stories as it is without fear or favor, or somebody calling your boss and telling him to fire you?
Well, I can only hope. I mean, the same way everybody will hope. I can only sincerely hope. But I think that journalists need to raise their head high. I'm a very proud broadcast journalist. And I think that government officials who have crossed my path, they know very clearly what my stance is. I demand respect and I give the same. I think that most journalists also need to do so. As much as you give respect to government officials, you must also demand respect. But this is made difficult by media buying. I mean, a lot of media houses, they're greatly influenced by government officials. So I'm certain the instance you referred to, that journalist is possibly afraid of picking up and then getting back to his media house, and there isn't a support for him back home. So he doesn't want to lose his meal ticket, so he simply keeps quiet as is ordered to. Can we get better leadership? I think we can. If we have citizens, you know, become stronger, make their voices stronger, join the media. I always advocate that the job is not just for the media, but that we need to have a strong citizenry that demands good governance. That helps the media even do their jobs better.
Okay. Well, I want to say thank you. Wemimo Adoni is a broadcast journalist, host of Table Talk on 99.3 Nigeria Info Lagos, and Sunny Dada is head Free Expression and Pluralism Institute for Media and Society, and he's also a Rotary Peace Fellowship. Thank you so much, guys, for being part of the conversation.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you all for staying with us. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll continue to talk about the issue of zoning and power rotation. Stay with us.
Everybody wants new Nigeria. Nobody wants to continue with this rusted system that is not working for anybody except those who are in government and their cronies and people around them. And when we go to the New Nigeria People's Party, we are happy with the New Nigeria and we are happy with New Nigeria People's Party. And you see, we are not only looking for party with the majority of people, we are looking for party that has a potential of receiving people who are of like minds. The party is very much concerned about the security in this country. Security is key. In fact, in the past, we were taking security for granted because we believe that every responsible government, not only in Nigeria, but across the country, will ensure the security of lives and properties. Unfortunately, we find ourselves in this country that the government in power cannot really say that they have done that. We have seen what happened just recently from here to Kaduna, where the train was attacked. So many people were killed, some were being injured. Many people were being taken into the bush as we are speaking now, they are there with the bandits. Only God knows what is happening to them. We have seen young men and women, especially the young doctor that we have seen being killed, and we have seen the dead body and so on. It's very unfortunate. And we are not after the statistics of who was killed, who was not killed. What we are interested in is for the government to go and fish out those bandits and terrorists that are killing innocent Nigerians.
Yes, I was trying to harp on these assurances that these people came on board. They went every corner, every nook, assuring Nigerians that they were the only ones with the capacity. And the person of Mr. President is the best thing after Jesus Christ that will happen to Nigeria. And all Nigeria needed to have all its problems fixed was to get that man in power. Today, even his own party faithfuls, like we have listened recently from Governor El-Rufai, Rotimi Amechi, and very many who have come sincerely to admit that there's failure in administration, that there is gross incapacity. But it didn't take us that long for us to know. The first 3 months, in fact, before he resumed office, we knew that they were foisting on Nigeria a person who is devoid of integrity.
You see, it is easier for a court to say IPOB is a terrorist group because it is an association that is defined by objectives, and there are leadership, there are structure. You can easily define them as a group. So when you now classify such an organization, then anyone that associates with that organization can be said to be either be a member or aiding or abetting the advancement of such cause. Now, these guys are not structured. They don't go about under any name. They are just a bunch of criminals belonging to different camps and different groups that are operating under no known name. Unlike JJN, that's the Jamaatul Nasrul Islami, whatever, that's the Boko Haram, and ISIS in the Islamic West African province. Those are groups that are defined by name and objectives. But these ones are a bunch of criminals.
The two major political parties are playing political games. One is watching the other and seeing the direction where the other is going before coming up with its own plan. What is clear is that
Ahead of presidential primaries of the ruling All Progressive Congress, APC, and the People's Democratic Party, PDP, for the emergence of a flag bearer, former Senate leader, Senator Ali Ndume, APC Borno South, has said that it will be unfair, an injustice, and a betrayal of trust, and a gentleman's agreement if the APC zones the presidency to the north. Meanwhile, the Northern Youth Leaders Forum has said none of the Southern presidential aspirants on the platform of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, has the political will to tame Nigeria's current challenges. Well, joining us to discuss this is former President Ohanaeze Ndigbo Odozing-Modozi and political commentator Musa Idris. Engineer Idris, it's good to have you join us.
Hello.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, but very faint here.
Okay, so let's start with your thoughts on the power rotation agreement. Some people will call it a gentleman's agreement. Some other people would say that it's not necessarily constitutional, and that at this point in time, Nigerians need a good leader, not necessarily somebody from a region or a zone. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, thank you for having me. Two issues there. You can say outrightly the issue at stake is unconstitutional. You should deliberately say you want to rotate, it's unconstitutional. But you see, the other one is the issue of gentleman agreement, which of course you know that that's what has been played out in Nigerian politics. What the politicians normally do, they try to play in the federal character into the affairs of, apportioning, political offices. So, as it is today, a number of political, people who are present in the political domain are saying that power will shift. Others are saying power must shift. If you say power will shift and it must shift, what are you really saying? You see, it's like you're not feeding a particular section or a particular political party to deliberately cede power to a section of the country. As it is today, we all know that there are a lot of clamor for power to go to the south. Not only going to the south, but going to the southeast. If you now say that power will go to the southeast, how will you get power to go to the southeast? You see, it follows that Southeast Ghana, beginning from their political leaders, say governors here, for instance, have to come up, put themselves together, and begin to look for a political party of choice. They can now come together and see how they're able to get power to come to their zone. Otherwise, I don't think
but Southeasterners belong to all political parties. There is no, I don't know which political party does not have a Southeasterner, whether it be a leader of thought or a leader of that party. We do have. I'm not sure that there is any political party that does not have a Southeasterner or anybody in general from the South.
No, I can't really get you, but the point I was trying to make is that, you see, there are two major political parties in Nigeria as it is today, the PDP and the APC. As it is today, you can see that even the PDP have allowed parties, to go any part of the country, which simply means that the highest bidder will eventually take it. If the people of the north are able to get their act together, then they'll get the other part of the country to support another candidate. If it is the person from the south that is able to put their act together and play the normal politics that everyone will understand, then of course the power will shift to the south. But as it is today, everybody wants to take a club out of the whole system, not necessarily allowing, power to deliberately shift. I think that's the problem we're having today. These two major political parties are just watching the steps the other party is going to take. Some are saying that, especially the PDP, they are saying that it is the turn of the North to actually take it because Obasanjo have done it, Jonathan have done it, so it is for the North again to come back and take the ticket. While APC is saying that since the present players in the last 8 years have been done by the APC, then it will naturally go to the South. But one very salient issue here that normally people will not want to play out easily, which of course we know eventually is going to come out. If the APC is going to take a candidate, for instance, from the South, where is it going to come from? Is it going from the Southwest? Is it going to come from the Southeast? If it's coming from the Southwest or Southside or Southeast, it means the entire South are going to produce a presidential candidate. By this, I mean that a Christian candidate will naturally come out from the South. If that happens, then where is the North going to take their vice presidential candidate? These are the issues. So it now means that the North will have to decide the decisive decision now to take who actually will play a vice. And if you go to the northern minority who calls a Christian, you should not do what they call federal character, because I have had other sections are saying that Muslim ticket is not going to play out. If Muslim ticket is not going to play out, it apparently means that a Christian minority from the north will have to come out to vie with the southern candidate now. So these are the issues. That is where real politics is going to play out. For PDP, as it is today, we know that they are clamoring for a northern candidate, which of course is apparently going to be a Muslim candidate. Then of course the South now, either Southeast or Southwest, will now be looking for a candidate that will vie for the northern candidate, which of course is going to be a Christian. So these are the issues.
Yes.
But what I'm saying in effect is like, in all of this, what are we looking at? We are looking for a candidate that has electoral value, a candidate that can apparently get literally at least 45 to 50% or 2/3.
So I'm sorry, Mr. Idris. I need to come in there. You seem to be talking about the mathematics of, and you're talking about the votes here, which is very important. Don't get me wrong. But then at the core of all of this is the issue that Nigeria is facing. We have so many issues, whether it be insecurity, ethnic divisions, religious crisis, we have it all. Should we, at this point, just be looking at the mathematics of who can win votes as opposed to what Nigeria needs and who can unite us? Because if we have a uniter, then we can have half of our problems solved. But then again, the question is, what should we be prioritizing now? The votes or who needs to lead this country to where we want it to go to?
Yes, I understand you. I think Nigeria now should be looking for a candidate that can, be able to be passionate, a candidate that can really, carry virtually everybody, at least to the majority of the people along. Not necessarily looking at ethnicity or religion. I'm only telling you that the salient point that I'm telling you, religion and ethnicity have to play out. For instance, most of the candidates that have come up from the north has actually come out for a particular section of the North. The Northwest now, as it is, or some part of the North Central. The Northeast, as it is today, have been unable to produce a presidential candidate as it were. So you can see ethnicity is still going to come out. But on the larger platform now, what they are looking at is probably a candidate that is saleable across board. So not necessarily ethnicity. These are the salient points that will eventually come out. That's why I was telling you that if APC is eventually going to get a southern candidate, then where is their vice presidential candidate going to come out from? Is it going to come out from the Christian minority? Because here, you are trying to play out federal character. By this, I mean the rotation we are talking of. You cannot do a Muslim or a Christian ticket as it is today because most sections will not agree. I had a particular religious group saying that they will not allow for a Muslim ticket. But if that is the case, it now means that you have to cut across board and begin to look for a candidate that could match up religiously, that could match up ethnicity-wise. Not necessarily putting this candidate to work for one section of the country. That's exactly what I'm trying to tell you. But I know that at the end of the day, you'll be looking for the candidate that has electoral value. A candidate who can, build bridges across board. Who can go to the south is known. Who can go to the east is known. Politically now. These are the kind of candidates we are going to look out for. Nigeria is a very big country. And then, of course, after you look at all of these political considerations, then you have to begin to look at the economic and the security, aspects of what is currently playing out today. Which candidate is going to come out today? What party can look at the present security issues or the economy that we're having today that they can really come out and begin to look at it and turn the economy around? Once a candidate is able to play out like this, it simply means that they may likely take the ticket. But for today, as we are speaking, we are trying to get the candidate from the various political parties through their primary to get a party that they feel that once they lift somebody up, it can actually, it can be sellable to the generality of the people. I think what most of the political parties are looking at for as states today.
You made mention of the fact that both political parties are watching each other to be able to make up their minds as to what they want to do. But then it looks like the People's Democratic Party is going to have its primaries before the All Progressive Congress, which means that whatever is the outcome of the PDP's primaries will determine what the outcome of the APC's primaries, I'm guessing. But then let's look at the people and what the people need right now. We've seen before now that the Southerners have continuously said, we want power to come to the South. And you also rightly mentioned that earlier on. As we know that we have tensions already, how do we seal these gaps? If political parties are there to serve the people, shouldn't they be listening to what the people want? And the people here, not necessarily just members of their political parties, but people in regions, elder statesmen, leaders of thought. These, for example, PANDEF, Afenifere, the Middle Belt Forum, all of these people have come out to say that they will not support any political party who brings out a presidential candidate from the North. Should that not be a clue for political parties to rethink their position if they really want to win? As you have, started with the conversation, you talked about the numbers, who's sellable and who's able to win votes across boards. And I'm guessing that every political party should have that person, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I didn't really get you, but if I understand what you are trying to say, probably the geopolitical zone, the position of all the socio-cultural groups, like Afenifere, the Northern Elders Forum, the ACF, and all of that. If you look at the role these various groups are playing currently, Afenifere is angling for its Southwest presidential candidate, while Northern Elders Group and, of course, the ACF are probably looking at somebody to come from the North. But again, some sections and some certain political big wigs are saying that power should shift to the South. They have not really come out to say exactly where they want power to shift to. Should power shift to the Southwest? Should it shift to the Southeast? As it is today, I know that the North will not support a presidential candidate from the East. Going by the current, political or security events happening currently in the Southeast. In one breath, the Southeast is calling for dismembering of the country. In another breath, they are calling for inclusion of political arrangement in the country. And then again, they are talking of that it is their turn. You begin to wonder, what did they really want? In my own take, I've always said that the Southeast should come out to play political games in this country. try to belong to the party of their choice, not necessarily playing ethnic or regional politics as they are doing currently today. But what they should do is to look at the party that they feel that they can belong to and then begin to, angle for political position. Not necessarily saying that they have to take it, they have to stampede people, they have to be killing, they have to be burning INEC offices and all of that.
But
I'm
sorry, I do not know if that's what the Southeast is really saying. Maybe this is your interpretation. I do not think that the Southeast is saying, give us the tickets. They're saying, zone it. And I think that conversation, I'm guessing that conversation should be between people from the South, whether it's going to go to the Southwest or the Southeast. That should be a conversation between people from the South. But the way you sound, it sounds like, well, we can't vote for the people from the Southeast because they're fighting. But can the Southeast or the Southerners also say the same about what's been happening in the North? We had elections hold in the North, even when there was fighting and killings. Is that a very good thing to say about people in the Southeast because of the uprising or whatever confusion you think is happening there? Should that be something that should write them off?
No, you see, for me, if I take Goni, for instance, I think when the Southeast leaders, there was a time they met in Lagos, they included the South now, cutting across South, Southeast, and Southwest. They try to look at an institution where they may have a common candidate. But most of these meetings that they had didn't really get to the light of day to assuage their feelings of producing a southern candidate. When they met in Port Harcourt, and sometimes again in the Southeast, they have to try to attempt to get a candidate, common candidate now. Rather than look for a way of reaching out, try to build bridges across the divide. They were talking that power must shift. So these are some of the languages that they were using that we feel is not political. A good politician will not be talking of power must.
But there have been all kinds of rhetorics also coming from the North in previous elections. I don't think that the rhetorics would be a determinant or should be a spanner in the wheel of things. Should this not just be conversational and then let the people who want to do or who have the powers to decide be the deciders and not necessarily the rhetorics? We've seen all kinds of rhetorics. It's in the heat of campaign season. People would say all kinds of things, but should that be a deterrent for people who want to support them or people who are asking for that support to be given? Finally.
Well, if I understand you, what I'm saying is that it is, as it is today, it is a party affair thing. Where we have not come to the general election yet. We are still talking of various political parties trying to now produce a candidate that could sell easily to the majority of the people. But today, even because of trying to get a candidate from the primary, they are now, trying to strategize by trying to put themselves together and make promises and shift ground and all of that. I'm saying that in the course of shifting ground, both the Southeast and the South, they haven't played the relevant policies that people from the other divide will make it look relevant for them to begin to say it is not time for them to support, a southern or a Southeast candidate. They are not even talking of a southern candidate, for instance, like a South or whatever. They are talking of a Southeast candidate. That is why I was telling you that if you are talking of a Southeast candidate, an average Igbo man does not, as it is today, believe in Nigeria. He still believes that, look at what is happening with the Kanu and the killings that are currently going on today in the thing is that if they are undecided as to what do they want from Nigeria. Do they still want to pull away from Nigeria? One, and if they really want to remain in Nigeria, then they have to come and play politics. I don't think, if I have to rule here, that a Southeast candidate today, president candidate, is not right enough for them to begin to angle for. What they could get easily, and that has to be also a Herculean task. They could get, narrowly a bad presidential candidate as it is. But
all right, Mr. Idris, unfortunately, we're out of time. I would have loved if we had Modozi here. Unfortunately, we could not connect with him. But thank you so much. Musa Idris is a political commentator. Thank you so much for speaking with us. Unfortunately, time is up. All right. Well, I want to say thank you to all of you who've been part of the conversation. Plus Politics returns tomorrow at 7 p.m. I am Mary Anacone. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Buki November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Hi there, Daya Adefuye is my name. I am the first child of my parents, late Pa and Mrs. Jones Adenola Adefuye from Odogogo, Ogun State. Yes, I was born at Island Maternity, but my early childhood was in Shomolu, where indiscipline and thuggery were forbidden. I remember we moved from one compound to the other with my peers, ate together, played together, and share common experiences. Then, much emphasis was placed on cultural values and respect for adults. That was when family names were valued and cherished. We were always reminded, Roti Omeniti Iwonshe, meaning, remember the son of whom you are. My admission into Molusi College, Ijebu in Ogun State, after my primary education at SCC Primary School, Fadi, Lagos, helped a lot in reshaping my life. I was in hostel for 5 years with other students from all corners of Nigeria. I had my fair share of childhood rascality, but the school strictly laid down rules, shaped and remodeled my attitude to life and living. What do you expect from a school where our renowned educationist, Dr. Tai Sholani, was once the school principal? Some of us still met that legacy of hard work and resilience, a hallmark of a typical Molusi College graduates. And of course, only the best we proudly say is good enough for Molusi College. We were taught to recite this daily, and it goes thus. We can become whatever we choose to be. No king, no lord, no knave can say us nay, for we believe that man is a potential doctor, or lawyer, or crook, or dwarf, or giant, or whichever he set his mind to be. We shall be giants, and therefore we shall walk, and walk, and walk, and walk, even if we must walk our fingers to the bone. So help us God. Fond memories are true. These trainings and admonitions later became my guiding principle all through my sojourn at Lagos State College of Education, Ijaniki, University of Ibadan, and University of Lagos, where I had my master's in educational administration and planning. It is worth to note that I was born when Nigeria's economy was not only thriving, but booming. I was raised when the provision of social amenities were a given, when leaders were committed to the true cause of nationhood, when we were carried our nation's flag with pride and honor, and we lined up on the streets as students to appreciate and welcome our visiting leaders. I was nurtured when it was pride to go to public schools as against private schools, and when, despite pockets of robberies, the nation was relatively safe. I asked myself, can we say the same of the present times? At what point did we miss it? All hope is not lost. We can still retrace our steps as a nation and change the narrative. We can still achieve such an amazing and egalitarian society if only we can remember where we are coming from and do the needful. For me, I see a new Nigeria that all our sundry will be proud of, a Nigeria that will shun tribalism, embrace religious tolerance, and respect the rule of law. Our children certainly deserve a brighter and better tomorrow, not the memories of good old days. I am joining hands with Sir Shemode Badejo in this collective drive towards a greater and better tomorrow. How about you? Thank you.
This Medan has been directed to empower 1,000 persons with disabilities in each state in the next 12 months.
We now start hearing the shoot of guns.
Whatever I've done.
Every public policy has winners and losers, and some will not be very happy with you, while others, usually the silent majority,
Hello and welcome to What Are You Saying? #Ways, where we talk about topics in the news as it affects us all. I am Musayome Saleh, and today I'm joined by the yellow beauties in the house. Yellow. Let me start with the blondie. Hello, Elsie.
She's channeling her
Elsie Godwin.
Marilyn.
She wants to be. She's
Kim Kardashian.
Yeah. At the Met Gala, she
you
channeled her inner Marilyn Monroe.
We love it.
You look amazing.
Please don't leave this wig anywhere close. I'm gonna take it.
How are you? How was your day?
Question. I thought you would not ask.
Sorry.
But you see, is it okay to say God will punish somebody on air?
No, it's not okay.
But there are people that are in line for that punishment. By the grace of God.
Is it the ones that the Koboko heaven is soaking it inside?
Amen. Whether it is going to be immediate or with God, you know, say God get one kind of timing with the best person, all those patient time.
That's why you're not good.
Maybe.
That's why.
But I just know that some people are just so difficult and impossible and irritating, you know. But my God is good.
Hallelujah.
And we're on this show where we have beautiful conversations.
Yes.
Smile. So yeah, my day was good. Let me put it that way.
Alrighty. How about you, Alera? How was your day?
My day was good. I mean, I had a lot of work to do because the holiday was really long, and my work has to do with people and organizations and partners. So if they're on holiday, there's nothing I can do. So I mean, today was a bang, was interesting. Hopefully by Friday, I would have been able to. In fact, I'm looking forward to Friday because Friday will determine my Monday. If I'm going to be frowning my face next week. But I mean, I'm hopeful for the week. I started. Today is Wednesday and the week just started today.
Right.
Yes.
How was your day?
I'm excited. Yes, it's true. How was your day?
What did I... So, I've submitted my car. I'm carless.
Mechanic.
So since that power steering thing happened, they've not really gotten it right. So I finally found someone that, you know,
that claims to be able to get it.
Let us pray and fingers crossed. If not, I will just go and get a new car.
Hey!
Because I cannot shout with Wahala.
That is the vibe. He said, if not, I'll just go and get a new car. She's not even saying I'll look for money to get a new car.
No, I will just go and get
pick it.
But I mean, on a serious note, this thing that you just talked about, your car going to the mechanic, and then Elsie said, we hope that they can fix it. I'm hoping somebody, one of the smart techies in Nigeria, can probably think of a way to build a platform for mechanics. Because the truth of the matter is that these guys, they spoil people car intentionally.
What do you mean by platform?
Where you can have good people
on the
platform.
People that be boarded on the platform? Is
the
it foreigners? Not be the same mechanic.
No. Then if they are not good, you yank them out. It's just as good as when e-commerce started. When e-commerce started, it wasn't like that.
No, don't be too hard on the mechanics. Honestly, I've seen amazing mechanics, right? Female, male that are that
are really good.
Yes. It's just that, you know, first of all, they're not. They're overwhelmed with work. A lot of them are overwhelmed. Okay, no,
let me tell you something before you go. That mechanic issue.
The morning
of Eid Mubarak, right? It be like say that one wake up, you know, say you need that money because they're Muslim. He just sent me a message. I found your verb. I say, he said he has found it. I said, so you found it this morning? He said yes. How much? 15K. I said the 15K is for what exactly? He has forgotten that I've paid him money because the parts of my car is really very scarce. You have to look for it, right? He has forgotten that he has collected money to look for it. I'm just waiting for him to call me to tell me, I have it now. But he woke up that morning and realized that maybe he needs more money to buy chicken or whatever. He said, I laugh. I said, okay, I hear you.
It is well.
Yes.
So today we're discussing Twitter, right? You know that our dear Elon Musk, our uncle,
the most eligible bachelor in the world,
he bought Twitter, and you know we saw some posts about him, the options. I mean, considering commercializing Twitter in the way that government officials and commercial people would start to pay, to use the platform. So we want to discuss that, to find out what impact and what that means for us, right? And here's what we found yesterday. It's called the power of digital media is it forces necessary change. Right? So Reuters reported that Elon Musk told banks he would develop new ways to monetize tweets and crack down on executive pay to slash costs at social media platform company. Now, Twitter will always be free for casual users, but maybe a slight cost for commercial/government users, Musk said in a tweet. Some revenue is better than none. He added in another tweet today. So today we are analyzing the Twitter space under this new ownership of Elon Musk, and we're asking, what are his plans as he's looking forward to monetizing this platform, especially for government and commercial purpose? How would this impact generally that platform and, the interactions that we already have on that platform? But first, let's take a break to see what we found in the news. All right, so International Firefighters Day is observed on May 4th. It was instituted after a proposal was emailed out around the world on January 4th in 1999 due to the death of 5 firefighters in a tragic circumstance in a bushfire in Australia. On December 2nd, 1998, a tragic event shook the Linton community, Australia, and the world. Firefighters in Linton, Australia, a populated region in Victoria, were fighting a large bush fire and called for mutual aid. This urgent mutual aid call brought the Glynlong West Fire Brigade to the scene, not knowing the despair and tragedy that was in store. Gary Vedvet, Chris Evans, Stuart Davison, Jason Thomas, and Matthew Armstrong all loaded into the company's truck. They were part of the strike team and were being sent to help extinguish the flames. As the 5 headed into the hot zone, the wind suddenly switched direction, engulfing the truck in flames and killing all 5 members. And this unfortunate incident is what inspired J.J. Edmondson to bring about an international holiday called International Firefighters Day to support the lives lost and dedicated firefighters who risk their lives every single day to save life and property. So, happy International Firefighters Day. I didn't know this history up until today.
Is Nigerian firefighters part of this celebration?
Of course, now
yes,
it's all over the
international.
world.
Okay.
It's all over the world.
We should cut our people some slack.
No, I'm just asking.
You know when you watch movies, how you see firefighters? Have you seen their drills?
Yes, no.
When they will climb on ladders in 2 minutes.
Everything. Like
Again,
once they
is
hear
it
the
the same
bell
here?
ring.
Is it the same drill here too?
We don't know. But I mean,
Well, it's
no matter what
supposed
you're
to be the
doing,
same.
you drop everything
It's
and just
supposed
head
to be the
out.
same.
That's how.
Although
that's how it is.
I was attending one firefighter class where they were training us how to control fire, especially kitchen fire. So it was quite interesting. Like if your pot, like you're bleaching oil and it gets up in flames, what are you supposed to do? You're not supposed to, you're not supposed to put water. Then you can take a wet blanket, just cover it. If your gas probably is, the fire is going out of control, just take a wet blanket, cover it up, or you cover the pot. I suppose what people used to do then.
pour water.
Because I saw a
just
video
try to-
on Instagram, I think yesterday, when a boy was saying that, thank God for women. He entered the kitchen and he almost burned. But that was really scary because he was taking the pot with the flame very close to the gas tank. A lot of people are not educated when it comes to handling,
Fire
especially
hazard.
kitchen fire. Especially kitchen fire.
God help us.
God help us. All right, so let me start with you, Elsie Godwin. What did you find?
So what I found is a good and bad news at the same time. Pastor gets life imprisonment for raping 12-year-olds. So of course it's bad because rape is not good news in any way, shape or form, whether you're recapping it or reporting it. But I like that he's getting life imprisonment for this offense. So an Ikeja domestic violence and sexual offenses court on Wednesday sentenced a 54-year-old pastor, Michael Olise, to life imprisonment for raping his friend's 12-year-old twin daughters. Delivering judgment, Abiola Sholadoye described Mr. Olise, the assistant pastor of the Anointed Chosen Vessel Ministry in Okota, Lagos, as a serial rapist who took turns raping his friend's daughters. She held that the prosecution had convincingly proved the charges of defilement against Mr. Olise beyond any reasonable doubt. The judge sentenced him to life imprisonment on 2-count charge bordering on defilement. She said, and I quote, "The testimony of the defendant portrayed him as a serial rapist who took turns to defy survivors. What a disloyal and untrustworthy pastor who shamelessly and audaciously had sexual intercourse with his friend's children who were entrusted in his care. His conduct is unbecoming of a pastor. Having been found guilty as charged with the 2 offenses, the defendant is hereby sentenced to life imprisonment." So yeah, that's my what's in the news.
That's really crazy.
Yes, it's crazy, and like I said, it's a good and bad news.
So I have a friend, Timmy. She's grown now to become a very big, counselor in the space of, getting people out of abuse and all of that. She said it several times that repeatedly, her pastors, when they would take her to certain churches and all of that, repeatedly different pastors at some point had carnal knowledge of her. They raped her. Do you understand? So I don't know why we keep trusting because we feel like there's a pastor. How did it even get to the point where these twins were
in his care?
Yes, in a close proximity with him, because it's just this thing that we look at people at face value and say, oh, because he's a man of God. Because he's a man of God does not stop.
That man of God, that's because he's a man of God, has allowed so many men to get away with all of these things. I remember when I was working, I don't want to mention the name of the company, that was in 2018. We had a story sharing session, and that session basically is just about individuals who want to share their story, tell their stories, and we're going to say, you know what, whatever is happening right here ends here. So this lady, was telling us what happened to her when she was young. Her pastor raped her. She went back home to tell her mom and her dad, because they were the ones that sent her to the pastor for deliverance service, for counseling. Then the guy raped her. She came back home to tell her mom and her dad that this is what this guy did to me. They said it's a lie. That would you be lying at this against the man of God. They dragged her to his house, made her kneel down to beg him.
To apologize.
She was like, that day she moved out. She was a teenager. She said she moved out of that house. She ran away from home and told everybody that asked, this was what happened and this was what my parents did. A lot of parents are enablers, and I don't know why they've glorified or they put the whole godly, like they say pastors as God now, that any little thing go to pastor, and then these guys are human beings that don't even have sexual orientation or even sexual discipline.
As flawed as any other human being.
Absolutely.
My news.
Yeah, let's take your story.
Okay, so my story basically is regarding the 3 months long strike, the 3 months long ASU strike. So the University of Benin students actually protested today over their the 3 month strike, and this is really insane because I remember in February we were talking about this thing just right before the strike was announced, and this is 3 months already. Children have been in school for this long, and I mean, there's a comment that really struck me that meanwhile the minister has said to have paid 100 million naira nomination form for election of 2020 because their children are not studying in Nigeria. Their children have no business with our educational system, and they feel comfortable to allow hundreds and thousands of Nigerians, if not even millions, actually just sit at home doing nothing. This is really crazy. And then later you say Nigerians are lazy youths. What are we really going to do about this? Because the people that we've trusted with all of these things are not really helping out. And I mean, a lot of students have actually come out to protest, and they're even urging more people to come out if it's possible for them to even march to Abuja and do this protest. It would really help. Hopefully the government listens. Hopefully the minister does something about it. But I mean, something needs to be done before we start to count 1 year, because it has happened before, like a long time ago.
I think it
happened
would be nice
before.
if the students even now gather at the Lekki toll gates at this point, because I guess that's
where they listen.
That bothers them the most, because I mean they don't have work, right? They are home. So if you want them to leave the toll, then okay, let's not get into that point. But remember when we had Dr. Digbeson on the show, when he was talking about, because you mentioned, you said something about when are we going to get out of this point and how they are able to cough out 100 million for their forms, right?
Yes.
And he said something around the fact that for them, education is not an immediate gratification, right? So if any government decide to spend money in education, we will not begin to see the impact until, say, 15 years
for low-hanging
down
fruits.
the line, right?
Absolutely.
And of course, you would have left the
power.
office, and then nobody's going to remember that, oh, you are the one who initiated this thing. So when it comes to any government that's going to take education serious, it has to be a government that sees the future, that is not looking at, like you said, low-hanging fruit,
and it's also looking beyond. Thank you.
This is even becoming really ridiculous.
Until we get to that point, nothing is going to be done, because to fix education, education is a long-term business goal.
It's a long-term game.
It's not a
And
short-term
then,
thing.
so I'm really afraid, because the people that have gotten this, they've gotten good education in Nigeria are getting better offers abroad.
Of course.
And a lot of them are relocating, right? So what is the faith of Nigeria? If the young ones that we're expecting to go to school are not being given an opportunity to be in school, then the people that have actually graduated do not have jobs, and then the ones that now have good, that have been able to train themselves with other things, are getting good offers outside Nigeria, which means that in the next 10-20 years, talking about this things really gets me emotional, because yes, so many people will relocate. What happens to the people that can't afford it?
We go empty together.
No, sentencing, date fixed for August 22nd. This is, remember the special aid to the governor of Ogun State, Abidemi Rufai, says, they can expect his jail sentence, and there are speculations that he might be there for a very long time after he pled guilty for the COVID-19 fraud in the US. So let's keep an eye on that. On that note, to take a break now. When we come back from the break, we will be discussing the Twitter under the new government of Elon Musk. The new ownership. Stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, thanks for staying with us. Now, the primary way social media companies like Meta, formerly Facebook, and Twitter make money is through selling advertising. Now, the concept of selling advertising while offering a free service is not new. Television, newspaper, and media companies have been doing this for a very long time before social media companies even existed. Now, in his speech to the banks, Musk also pointed to Twitter's gross margin, which is much lower than peers such as Meta Platforms Inc., as the Facebook and Pinterest. Now, arguing this leaves plenty of space to run the company in a more cost-efficient way. Musk told the banks he plans to develop features to grow business revenue, including new ways to make money out of tweets that contain important information or go viral. And the sources said, now, ideas he brought up included charging a fee when a third-party website wants to quote or embed a tweet from verified individuals or organizations. So what do you think about all of this new development and how you think this would affect the common users of Twitter, and, you know, going forward, how would this impact generally on the platform? Now, please, let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-84663. You can also tweet at us at Wayshow Africa1 with the hashtag Wayshow. I know sometimes when they talk about these things, they say no consign us. You know, no, wait now. Because I remember that, you know, when there was a ban, or they say we should not be calling it ban, it was suspension. Ban. Right? They said ban. Well, at the early stage. They cannot legally say it was a ban, so they will call it a suspension. When there was a suspension, we know how much they claimed that, you know, in terms of, she's the person that will help us here, the revenue that was being lost on a daily basis, you know, on Twitter. I don't have that data. I know, I don't have the data, but yes, I don't have the figure. I think the revenue that was lost was had to do with individuals that made money on Twitter. That's where their job is. So now I need to understand this process. Maybe, Esu, do you have an understanding of what this Twitter thing is about? Because now when you say, so I get the part of government officials when you say commercial. So people like you that are like, you know, content creators and what's it called? What do you call influencing? No. There's a word she calls the
digital marketers. Digital
marketers, right? Are you going to be categorized under commercial, or you're going to be, you know, still be going by your regular thing? And when they're saying that only verified handles, so it may say if you don't verify, you are useless with that.
No, so it's not exactly that way. But there's something you read or you mentioned while you were introducing the conversation, where you said when you want to embed a tweet or something. I guess people are just bringing up different suggestions, but that's one I don't think is going to ever fly, because there's screenshots. So if I really want to show a quote of your tweet, I can just use this, screenshot it, and have.
Are you sure that the algorithm, even for screenshots, will not be able to pick even from the picture?
Screenshot is screenshot.
Screenshot is screenshot. I think it's audio that they probably can take out, because I mean the platforms like Clubhouse, you can't record. If you're recording your screen audio, you won't hear the sound.
You can now. Actually.
Now, that was really
okay. So I mean, just to add to what she has said, I know some people wonder, why we're having this conversation, but because a lot of young Nigerians are actually making money off this platform. Like, this is how they live. Like, you might even see them driving good cars. I'm not saying flashy cars now, but driving good cars and living a decent life. And all they really do is to engage on this platform, grow and influence, and then begin to be that pseudo platform where people can, or even brands can go and use them as mouthpiece to endorse their brands, or just, you know, drive downloads or create conversion for them or leads. So it is very important to have this conversation, because people are beginning to think about how this is going to affect their livelihood, affect digital marketing, affect brands, of course affect the government as well. It's also very interesting how Twitter, which is why I remember the last time we had conversation that has to do with Twitter, I said something about the UI UX being amazing. Like, I don't know what the thought process is to get to this point, but Twitter has proven that your UX and how you also place things that are trending helps in ensuring that people are connected to your platform. Because if you're looking at the numbers, Facebook has way more people in Nigeria than Twitter, like way more people in Nigeria. But if you talk about how people have been able to monetize those platforms for personal use now, not for the company itself, then you see that Twitter takes the lead, because the conversation there is in real time. You can engage almost anybody. There is almost no bureaucracy in terms of, oh, I'm higher than you, so you cannot, or you're not my friend, it means we cannot interact, or we cannot have a conversation and just move on from there. But I think the one that got my attention is the government part. And it reminded me of this suspension as well, because I was looking at it from the angle of understanding that this is a platform that is owned by somebody or an organization. And when you're coming into that platform, because you understand that they have the audience and you want to reach that audience, or you understand that your citizenries are on that platform and you want to read that platform, not coming on that platform with a sense of entitlement. Because I think that was what played out when the whole suspension thing happened, because you feel, oh, these people have the numbers and they have our people, our numbers is probably generating some form of income for them, so we should have the right to do what we want to do on this platform. But I think government officials also need to begin to understand that this is also a business for them. If they don't want you in their business, they don't want you in their business. And if they
And
think that
if you
you
must
are
be
going
there,
to
you must
pay
play by the rules.
a premium to be part of that business, then you now as a government, quote unquote, will be able to sit down to ask yourself what the return on investment is on your brand, which is the country, and also what it does for you in terms of communications to your people, and then understand if you're ready to spend that money, whatever the premium is going to be for that area, right? I think when the ban thing also happened, a lot of people were like, oh, this is just Nigeria. But so that figure is not very clear now, but I know we are almost at 10 million users or thereabouts. If it's up to that, I don't want to give wrong figures, so just forgive me. But I know that the number of Twitter users in Nigeria is very significant. Like, we have the largest in Africa, right? And you cannot begin to assume that somebody in that business space will not pay attention to where those numbers are coming from a particular region or a continent into their platform. So thinking that Twitter is not going to care that there is a suspension in Nigeria is just a joke on its own, because when you talk of Twitter in Africa, Nigeria is actually leading that chart, right? So I feel like there's a lot of things to be done in terms of monetization, but you also need to go back to look at the algorithm, because you said something about Meta, which is of course formerly Facebook, and how much Facebook and Instagram as a whole is raking in terms of advertising and algorithm and all that. And that's something that Twitter has not been able to crack. And that is also a factor of what the advertising looks like, because if you give me $100, for example, to advertise on Instagram, I'd rather advertise on Instagram than advertise on Twitter.
So I was going to ask you
because
that.
The return on investment is almost 0 to nothing.
So Instagram is more for, I'll come to you later. Instagram is more for like what you see. You know, it is drawn to our what's the word now? You know how somebody said the biggest platform of envy is Instagram. Right, where you are seeing what people are doing. You know, Twitter is an intellectual platform.
Yes.
It's not really so much of where you see pictures, you see all the whatever. So it's not as attractive, except if you really, really have that knack for issues that has to do with, you know, conversations and all of that. Because if you are about the superficial life, you're about the whatever, you're about selling, you're about costuming, you're about whatever, which is what Instagram offers. Right, Twitter doesn't have that.
Exactly.
So I'm now wondering if you start to commercialize, you know, that kind of platform where it was supposed to be, where conversations are driven, you know, how would that work? Was it maybe with the new tweet space or something? I don't know.
I mean, so what I was actually going to say is, I mean, when Twitter started, the idea behind Twitter initially is just to have a platform whereby people would, you know, can communicate in, I think how many characters? Is it 150? 140, yeah. 140 characters, very short. You just say what's on your mind, say what's happening, and then you move on. It was never, I mean, the intention from the beginning was never to commercialize it, right? So with Musk purchasing the platform and saying that one of the things he would like Twitter to do is for it to be commercialized, I'm looking forward to seeing how he intends to do it different from what Meta is actually doing. Because if you look at Meta, when Facebook started, way before most of this, I think Facebook was the first social media platform. When Facebook started, it was more about I think one of the USP back then is meeting people, connecting with the world, connecting with people from different parts of the world.
And your old friends.
Letting people know what's on your mind. You know, that's how Facebook really started. And before you know it, I think in a couple of years, he now introduced the marketplace, then Instagram, which was for pictures, also introduced the marketplace. I'm wondering how Twitter would actually be if it's actually commercialized. Because it's now changing, it's defeating the purpose. Aside from, you know, us talking about how we're going to even how Twitter is going to make money. One of the things that I'm majorly concerned about is, when Elon Musk gave his statement that he was saying that he wants Twitter to be a free speech for bedrock of functioning democracy, and Twitter is a digital townhouse where matters vital for the future affecting humanity can be debated.
Yeah.
So now, if you're telling me now that what he wants really is for Twitter to be a platform that things that are affecting people can be debated without filter, I am afraid.
Yeah.
A lot of people are afraid. And then one other thing that I actually noted.
What are you afraid of?
When you have a world without laws or a world without caution, a lot of things will fall off the crack. A lot of things would, and why a lot of people are concerned now is because I think the same week Musk announced that he was going to acquire Twitter, and he gave that statement about Twitter being a free platform for anybody to have this conversation. The European Union actually announced that any company or any organization that puts out comments on social media platforms will be fined if their comments are offensive or derogatory or anything like that. But now if Musk is coming to say that it's free for all to express themselves, then it's a big problem.
So, but you know what they say there's freedom of speech, but something after
there are laws that
right?
guides all of
and
these
it's not
things.
a Nigerian thing,
it's the
right?
world.
It's a global thing.
Yes.
So I don't think Musk is going to wake up and say all the whole T&C or rules that are guiding the use of Twitter is now going to be thrown into a bin and do as you like, right? And even if he says do as you like, when your local policeman pick you up, he's not coming to bail you, because at the end of the day, it still serves as evidence to what you do. So whatever, for me, saying that the platform is free for all to use and all, he is not saying that, oh, come to this platform to then cause disruption, right? Of course, people always hijack whatever is made free to be able to do whatever they want to do and how they want to do it. But him now coming from the angle of saying, oh, these people, which is the government, will have to pay for it, the commercial brands have to pay for it. You need to also understand that except for those who are just tweeting for their own expression, a lot of the agendas that are set on social media also come from the government or either
already. Yes.
Right. So if these people still want to keep using these platforms, then maybe it makes sense for them to also begin to pay those premium, because they are the ones who sort of set the agenda to what they want people to talk about.
So this premium you're talking about, Elsie, if we start to set those kinds of agenda, right? Because it means that there'll be certain algorithms, words will be picked out that indicates that you are probably maybe a government official or this is a commercial tweet that would require you to pay. So the point is, would this not defeat certain things that we're trying to do? Now we already know that. Let me bring it back home here, because I know the one way they happen for our brother.
Yeah,
we already know that. Yesterday we talked about the cost of governance, you know, how it is so exorbitant and all of that. We already know that it is who has the most money that gets to be seen, right? You can't come on TV, for instance, if you do not have certain kinds of money. You cannot come on radio, you can't come on, you know. So a lot of these underdogs are not able to, you know, be seen.
Are the underdogs in the government already?
No, they're not in government. So that's what I'm saying, that I don't know how they'll pick out the words that would categorize a tweet, for instance, like this is government whatever, because there are people, for instance, running campaigns now,
right?
You know, on Twitter. So would that be flagged as a commercial tweet, or like maybe it is a government whatever? That's my.
It's just like Elsie. No, it affects Elsie too, because let's assume no,
I'm not declared yet.
No, what I'm saying is, as a digital marketer or somebody that basically you work for a couple of organizations that you have to use your handle in, you know, passing some information out. So what she's basically saying is that you're working, let's assume that maybe you have a PR job for a political party or something like that, a campaign that you just probably have to tweet and make. So those are your words that you're saying now.
So you have to,
they'll just probably tag you.
Let's take a break. Let's take a break. We'll come back from the break. We'll continue the conversation. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. Now, if you just tuned in, we are analyzing Twitter under Elon Musk ownership. Now, please, let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp 081-803-4663. You can also tweet at us at WeShowAfrica1 with the hashtag WeShow. So, Elsie, you know, so that's the question. That's my fear, right? So, because I do not want a situation where people then it now becomes the person that has the most money to be able to be visible, you know, because tweets can just go viral in a heartbeat,
Yes,
even though we
second.
know that these things are being sponsored.
Yes.
Some of the tweets that even go viral can go viral from a very, very... I've seen a tweet going viral that is from someone that has
20 followers. Yes, nah.
20 is good. 3 followers.
Yeah.
And people are killing themselves on top of what the bot said. Because as far as I'm concerned, that person is a bot. Or, I mean, that handle is not a real human being. Do you understand? But, I mean, everything Elon is saying right now is... I feel like we should just be ready, but not overly stress ourselves over it, right? Because it's just like someone trying to get into becoming president of Nigeria. You say a lot of things until when you get there, you now know that they work like that, right? I mean, he's saying something around, he's going to defeat. He also pledged to defeat spam bots and authenticate all human using Twitter. Right. He also said something around the algorithm, which now, as at this point, the algorithm curates what users see on the platform, but he wants it to now be an open source or transparent to developers and users. I mean, it sounds all good until you actually get on the job and interface with people. I mean, Elon is not going to sit down to start coding.
Oh, wait up. I want to ask you a good question, Sha. Basically, go carry $44 billion to go and buy Twitter. Well, we're not expecting that he was supposed to make money somehow from it.
Aside from that $44 billion, if the bid didn't go through, he was going to pay $1 billion.
So there's actually a breakdown of that money.
Just like that.
So he agreed to buy Twitter for $44 billion, right? In a deal funded by $21 billion of his own money.
Then the rest will be
Then a further $12.5 billion borrowed against his shareholding in Tesla, and the rest made up by loans from banks. Yeah, so that's like the breakdown of how the 41 billion.
Anyhow,
the reason why I'm laughing,
they spent $44 billion
on a
naira.
platform
dollars. Why is she looking at when I said naira? $41 billion on a platform, right? So what were we expecting that this thing should not be commercialized? But let me quickly ask though, how do you think this will benefit people like, influencers? That's what I've been looking for since. Influencers and digital marketers. How would it benefit, them? If
no one is sure about anything right
anymore,
now, right? I was saying something earlier about how the return on investment you will get when you even spend just 2,000 naira on Facebook to promote a post, compared to, you can't even spend 2,000 naira on Twitter. The minimum is, I think, $100. Right. So even let's just bench it at $100 and say if I splurge in $100 on a post on Instagram and splunging $100 on a post on Twitter, difference is massive. Like it is so massive. I think that was when we started talking about the aesthetics of Instagram. I don't think that's where it ends. I mean, every platform has its unique selling points. And like she said, she actually really broke down what Twitter is to people and how, I mean, he also mentioned in series of his tweets where he talked about the kind of conversation that happens on these platforms and it being very important and how he also wants to sustain it and all. That is what Twitter is for. But if you give me the option to say that I can promote my tweets, then if I promote the tweets, please serve the tweets to people, right? Not promoting the tweets and then if I decide to just take the $100 and share it around a group of influencers and they retweet it, then I get more value than coming to give you the money, which is what Meta has done. Because even if you have the followers and all and you put it out and spread it across, at some point you begin to wait, won't it be better for me to just promote this thing? Because you will see the numbers increase once you promote it. Even now, yes, it's a bit, now they want to make more money. It's a bit more stringent.
But it's just too much. There used to be a time you do a post and you see a lot of views, you see a lot of. But now, if
it's very organic, if it's very organic for you to see
views, blacklisted,
how would you sponsor posts?
Right.
It is a marketing strategy, right? So, which is why I'm saying for Twitter now, first and foremost, I'm hoping that they can go back to the algorithm they used to have, which is, I think it's called, I can't remember the words now, but it's just based on who you follow. So if I'm following you and you tweet and I come on, I would see your tweets.
That's how you're supposed to be.
But now, it is now exactly as Instagram. So if I'm following you and you post something, I probably won't even see it ever until I come to your timeline. And there's something, at least Instagram, now people have studied it to be able to understand it, to say it depends on the number of people that sees your post in the first 5 minutes. That would then calculate how much more people will serve your post going forward. But for Twitter, we don't even know what the algorithm is and what they do.
Instagram algorithm
all we know is you have to just be always on Twitter and just
Just
engage
tweeting.
so much before you begin to see a certain kind of
So
traction
now
on
this
your
is where I'm
page.
even coming now, because it seems like with all the social media platform, they are deliberate about keeping you there on that
Yes,
platform.
of course.
Who has that time to be doing
Gen
this?
Z has it.
Oh, is it with Meta being a universe on its own?
Uh-huh.
That you can be
though.
anything you want to be.
I saw a stat. I
Anything.
can't remember what I saw it now. I don't know if it was in our group where it was the amount of time people spend on social media in different countries. And
Yes.
Nigeria was actually at the
Yes.
top, like we're number one.
Because we're jobless. We're jobless and we're buying data.
I wanted to quickly point out the rules that the European Union actually brought out, and the reason why I want to talk about it is that before Elon Musk came with the announcement, I know the whole world has been looking for a way to what's it
down
called,
social media.
censor people that do hate speech, all those, what they call those guys again, trolls, to remove all people that pass wrong information. We know that information, that disinformation is like very, very rampant all over the world. And you know, they came up and said that they will be giving anybody that falls off on any of these rules. So one of the rules, the first one is content moderation, removing of hate speech, remove disinformation and war propaganda, and anybody or organization that falls against this rule will be fined 6% of their revenue. So then they announced this one. Everybody's happy that okay, no more nonsense on social media, and then our brotherly richest man in the world.
But even if you're
has
going to break
purchased-
this thing down, you can't just find a platform based on what the user has done. I feel like there's also supposed to
find
be
the organization responsible. So the
For
organization,
the tweets,
yes, or
not the
individual. No,
platform.
not the
Oh,
platform. So
oh,
they are fighting for people who are saying that on social media, people just say whatever they like.
Absolutely.
People give wrong information. Before you know, the bad news has spread, and then the real one has not happened. Then there's always like a conversation on propaganda and war. So what they are saying is the individual or organization that
Why are
comes
we
out to do
acting
this
as
thing.
though that these are not the things that drive social media?
But now they're trying to put a lot to it to manage it, because this thing has affected a lot of people and a lot of things.
Well, you know,
So
maybe
I think for me, for digital marketers and those who I would say their life depends on
social media.
Twitter to a large extent. I mean, if the door closed, the big God will open another one.
And it wasn't not closed for months.
For
one
people
year.
still making money somehow. At
Somehow.
some points, brands they're opening up even while that suspension was going on, but it wasn't as it was,
Okay.
right? I just think people should just pay attention, read the fine lines. Look through whatever rules. I mean, he's just talking right now. Elon will always talk. Remember, even after the day they said, oh, he has bought it and all, he tweeted about Trump's platform.
yeah.
And that was interesting to see, because
He was saying
you're
that
supposed to be-
Trump's platform was doing
you're
well.
supposed to be a competitor to that platform, but I mean, we know how he thinks. He's a rational and irrational guy at the same time. You don't become the world richest guy without taking risk and sort of knowing what you're doing. So I want to believe that he has some interesting ideas, and those ideas would also need to be fine-tuned. People at Twitter are not eggshells, right? Of course they have their thinking caps on, and when he lays these ideas on the table, it has to now be their job to break it down in a way that makes sense for the business and also makes sense for the people. That's you looking at what the primary vision of the platform is, except they're saying they want to change the vision. But from the tweets that he's put out, it's not a case of changing the vision. It's almost like, let's
We have
stick
to
to
find
what
a
the
way.
no, we already know what the vision is, and people are getting away from it. So let's stick to that
What
vision
and find a way to make money from it.
Yes, so if that is the case, I think it has to be like an all hands on deck thing, and they would do the right thing. I want to believe the product might not be what it is now anymore in terms of them bringing
what
in
we
new
know it to
things,
be.
new features, and it has evolved over the years
It
as well.
has.
Now, of course, you can
It
remember
has.
what Twitter used to
It
be
has.
on our BlackBerry phones at the time and what it is now. It keeps changing.
Yeah.
Like you wake up every morning and there's something new. The UI UX guys are not playing at all,
Yeah.
right? But I think for us, I mean, they will do their job, but for us, it's just for us to always read the fine lines and see what works for us. I don't think they're going to put out something that is going to hurt the general public in terms
course
of,
not.
of course, they will be doing that because
Yeah.
there are options, really. So in making that money, you also have to.
I'd like for
consider
them
your
to
competition.
define.
No,
you
they
know, some
will.
of these
I'm
things.
certain they
Clear
will.
definitions, because I mean, commercial can be anything. Commercial can be anything. And Twitter, you know why I used to like Twitter? You know, before these people came
I'm
and
just trying to
suspended and just
understand
gave
it.
me headache, you know. So Twitter is somewhere that if you tweet something that makes sense, it doesn't matter who you are. Like you rightly said, you saw somebody with three followers, and the person
Everybody
had
was killing themselves
10,000 comments, retweets, and all of that. So it was never a platform about whether and this is why I loved Twitter, right? It was never about Instagram. It is based on your following that determines the interaction of the tweet.
Yeah.
Unlike what we see with Instagram, it is you must have like millions of followers before you can get a lot of views and engagement and all of that. So it's completely far from it. So for me, that's why the importance of Twitter, because again, let's not forget that if we bring it back home to politics in Nigeria, political conversations, right? A lot of
on Twitter.
Look at what happened with the NSAS protest and all of that.
Yes.
A lot was driven on that platform, and that was why it was imperative. I mean, how did they put in English that the government had to they had to suspend that platform. So that's why I'm saying that we need to be very clear what it means, because Twitter for us is our voice as young people in Nigeria. So if you're saying that you now want to start to commercialize, Twitter, how would this impact the kinds of conversations that we've already established and the kinds of bonds we've established? I mean, when you host a tweet space now, you see 16,000 people logged on live. Because again, I was really looking forward to that tweet space when the elections, the 2023 elections are approaching, because you know why? It means that you can call. We don't need to wait for the big media houses. We can call representatives. I remember the one that Rinu had hosted, where Saraki that is saying that he wants to become president. They brought him there. Oh yeah, come on. And people were able to ask direct questions. So that kind of interaction, that kind of proximity, close proximity with these leaders makes a lot of sense to me. So if I'm hearing anything commercializing, I'm just praying that it doesn't affect, because Twitter would be a whole, it can change the game when it comes to elections and the kinds of conversations that we're driving, and eventually it changes the hope for a new Nigeria. Twitter, it can birth that new Nigeria. And that was why it was very important for the government to suspend it, because they know how powerful the platform is to us, as young people. So that's where I am just a bit worried.
So I want to read a part of a post on the Irish Times. It says, in tweets that were subsequently deleted, Mr. Musk suggested changes to the platform's premium subscription service, Twitter Blue, that's the verification people, including slashing its price, banning advertising, and giving an option to pay in the cryptocurrency Dogecoin. Is it Dogecoin? I don't know what they call that coin. But I wanted to read this part because of what you said about people who sort of have voice. Though the platform doesn't really pay attention to that number of followings or your blue tick before you get the attention that you need. But there's been cases whereby you see certain tweets. I know this tweet isn't right. Like, it is maybe not ethically right or morally right, but
yet it gains the traction.
It gains the traction, and then you are seeing the blue tick and you're wondering, why is this person verified? Like, how are you a verified user and you're putting out this information and there won't be consequences to you doing that?
Don't go there without verification. No.
Yeah,
I want to ask,
that's what I'm
criteria
saying.
For verification?
Thank you. This is where I'm going to. I'm hoping that there is a better criteria to the verification and to understand why people even get verified. Initially, it's a case of, this person is already a public figure, right? So that another person will not use
their name,
your likeness and then begin to tweet something that would make people misbehave. I mean, if a Davido, for example, tweets something, you know what the impact will be. So it's important for somebody like that to be able to know that, yes, this is a verified handle, and if he tweets this, then
it means that he came from him.
So that was the idea behind the whole verification thing, to be able to know those that are of influence, that their influence can actually disrupt things or make things better. But right now,
let's take a comment.
Okay. So there's a comment here. Elon Musk owns Twitter and he's a businessman. Any firm without a profit is meaningless, and Twitter has a different approach and its uniqueness compared to Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, etc. everybody using the platform should pay, especially Lai Mohammed and the government officials. Great topic. Bless ways, ladies. Bobby Kennedy. Thank you. Always make us laugh.
Lai Mohammed.
Bobby Kennedy. Well, you see, this is the fear me I have. Somebody says intelligent conversation, but you didn't put your name. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You know what I'm saying is that the fear me I have is that they should not even start, because trust me, you know, say our government, you know, they add them to pay money. If it's money is the least of our problems. So I don't want it to become like a money game.
What do you think will happen if they pay the money? Will they pay the money and say every other people should leave? That's not the case. You pay the money and get the whatever premium services comes. You pay the money.
People.
No, it's not a case of everybody should now pay to be on the platform.
No,
That's
I know.
Okay.
But I'm saying that there's no how, Elsie. You're spending $1 million on Twitter, right? And you and I will be on the same pedestal. We're not going to do the same level anymore. They will be seeing your interactions and your engagement much more.
Because you are a government.
Okay.
You be government.
I now see where you're coming from, because it means that if you don't have Kudi to boost your post or boost your comments, that's the end.
But that would be if the what's the word now, the UI UX of how it works now is changing. Because if it's still maintained the way it is, like you rightly said, even if I go to President Muhammadu Buhari's Twitter page, I don't know, is that page still functional? Because I know I followed at some point. But if you go there and he makes
you unfollowed him?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
If you go there, why did you?
I'm just trying to reiterate that Elsie unfollowed President Muhammadu Buhari.
So if he makes a tweet, you see what happens in the thread of that tweet, the comment section. Like you see posts that even get more engagement than the tweets that has gone. So it's not going to change the fact that yes, you get preferential treatment, quote and unquote, if you're paying for this service, because if it's premium, then it has to come with premium what's it called now, premium features, right? But I don't think it's going to marginalize people in the sense that I cannot now come and say what I want to say on that tweet. I will say it though, because you paid the money for all of us to see it, right? I will say it, and I think that will be, you not see follow for follow.
No, so I'm not even asking, I'm not even talking about us not being able to comment or engage or interact with the tweet. I'm talking about, for instance, now you talked about President Buhari. I just realized that I'm not following him as well, so I don't know which one is worse. But you know what, I'm just saying that so you talked about him, so I'm saying that, for instance, if we had another presidential candidate or whatever, that probably is not as, maybe he has the intellectual capacity, but he's not even savvy, not social media savvy. He doesn't have the finance that probably match a President Muhammadu Buhari, for instance. So if we are paying,
our president.
That's our president. No, let's even forget President Buhari. Let's focus on these aspirants now, for instance, because they're all government, as far as I'm concerned, they will be soon to be government officials. So if we say, okay, for instance, we want to tag anything government and all of them want to pay, right? So I'm saying that people that have less funds will not be visible. Their engagement on Twitter will not be.
But you're looking at it based on those that have not entered the governments. These people, they are still aspirants. You cannot call it
commercial. You know, there are two parts. There's a commercial and there's government official, right?
This is why I said
government.
Mosque.
Come and explain it to us.
Explain it. So I am not working on it.
They would announce. I'm sure, like in a couple of days, they will tell us exactly what the new rules are.
Not even a couple of days. This thing is going to take. I mean, he's not even done with the ownership. Exchange and fully say, okay, you own this thing. There's a long road to.
Meanwhile, why has President Muhammadu Buhari not tweeted in a long time?
He's busy.
He's busy planning.
Oh no, he tweeted 2 days ago.
Oh,
okay,
what
I'm
did
just
he
saying.
say? So your mind now is Bubu that is tweeting.
It's Bubu that is tweeting, no. 2 days ago. He has 4 million followers. I hope he uses them well. Thank you, Elsie. Godwin, thank you, Alero. I think we had a fantastic conversation. But I want to still learn this thing, because I know that Twitter will affect also. So please, we need to get it right.
We'll be fine.
We'll be fine, right?
Right, I think that's what it is.
All right, so before we go, do ensure you follow us on Instagram at Wayshow Africa. You can interact with us further, drop a comment, and more importantly, follow all our engagements on social media. Like, share, invite your families and friends to follow and watch the conversation. Our handle on Twitter, since we are talking about Twitter today, is at Wayshow Africa 1, right? Follow us on Twitter as well. So if you missed today's quote, here it is again. The power of digital media is it forces necessary change. And Twitter is a very important digital platform that provokes a lot of change. So that's why we're paying attention to that today. We'll see you guys live tomorrow at 8 p.m. as we bring another great conversation to your screen. Enjoy.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408 or send an email to marketing@plustvafrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
This is it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Buki November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the barbing, I pay my rent. From the barbing, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
I will do everything to take Lagos out of the national grid.
Hello, this is the Greater Lagos Vision and I'm your host, Love Ikuku Oyedoku. Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has announced a 100% funding increase for the state's employment trust fund. According to the governor, the increase is part of measures to help grow small businesses across the state through soft loans. The governor made this declaration at the second edition of the Lagos Employment Summit, co-convened by LSE-F and the Ministry of Economic Planning and Budget. Sanwo-Olu also noted that the state government had committed over 10 billion naira in grants in the past 3 years to strengthen the activities of LSE-F, supported 4,000 micro, small and medium enterprises, MSMEs. This is the Greater Lagos Vision. I'm your host, Love Ikuku Oyedoku. Welcome once again. This episode features transport sector reform. Sanwo-Olu kicks off e-hailing lag drive service with 1,000 sports utility vehicles for first phase. Building collapse. Lagos State government partners insurance firms set to pay compensations to victims. Waste management, sort your waste and get reduction in waste bill. As part of efforts to reduce frequent cases of collapsed building and liabilities associated with it, the Lagos State government is set to introduce a mandatory insurance digital solution platform for all property owners in line with the federal government's Insurance Act. There has been cases of collapsed buildings across Nigeria, and Lagos is not an exception. This results in loss of lives and billions of naira in investments. The 21-story building in Ikoyi, Lagos, which collapsed on November 2nd, 2021, was under construction before it caved in. The state government has now taken the bull by the horn to prevent such occurrence.
In the last 44 years, there have been over 480 building collapses to be precise. And this is the information that we have. This is the data that we have. Imagine so much more that we didn't even capture. And this just highlights and goes to strengthen the importance of insurance. Many a times when these incidents, dangerous occurrences have occurred, the government is almost like the last resort where we then need to pay compensation. What we're saying now is safety is everybody's responsibility.
To reduce the burdens and losses incurred by victims of collapsed buildings, the state government enters into a collaboration with insurance companies to ensure safety and, in the event of liabilities, pay compensations to the persons concerned.
We are taking the purchase of occupiers' liability to another level. We want to, first of all, sensitize everyone that this insurance is not about IGR. It's not about what comes to the insurance industry. It's about the safety of all. You know, sometimes we say, God forbid, it will not happen. But many times we have seen it happening. And when it happens, some financial responsibilities come with it.
Ilori adds that a digital solution platform will provide hitch-free and transparent activity. Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has reiterated his administration's commitment towards supporting innovative ideas and investment in technology to achieve global solutions. Governor Sanwo-Olu, who stated this at the opening ceremony of the Microsoft facility at Ikoyi, said it was inspiring to see efforts made by the company in putting up the smart building, despite the challenges posed by COVID-19 pandemic.
Well, it's incredible to see what, the imprint of Microsoft, here in Lagos and in Nigeria. I mean, given the level of investment, it's not only encouraging, it's actually very audacious. I must indeed see that it's going round. It's indeed a smart building, and you've put a lot of resource. I don't expect anything less with a global name like Microsoft. But it's really around how we now, like you said, develop local, skills and local talents, and local, people. We understand what needs to be done to ensure that, your investment are safe and secure. But more importantly, the kind of partnership that you require, to see it grow. As a government directly, we see ourselves working with Microsoft, even on the business side. But more importantly, in terms of infrastructure and developing the space, so that granularly people and the citizens can utilize the full benefits of what resources have been put
in here. Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has sworn in 3 new permanent secretaries, bringing the total numbers to 50 in his public service in less than 3 years. The governor charged them to justify the confidence reposed on them by adding more value to the service.
Almost 70 to 75% of the current crops of permanent secretary were appointed in our administration. And that tells 2 things. One, the fact that we want to continue to identify, and recognize the brightness of our whole lot in the service of Lagos State. And that's what we're doing. Secondly, is also to give people that are deserving this position. We know how enviable it is to rise up to the position of permanent secretary, but if you're deserving of it, we will not deny you or debar you of that.
As part of measures to ensure and guarantee the comfort and maximum safety of commuters, the Lagos State government has launched a new e-hailing taxi scheme. The scheme will complement the multimodal transport network being developed in Lagos in accordance with the strategic master plan of the state. That's according to the governor. A partnership agreement for a new e-hailing transport scheme was signed in 2021 by Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu and Chinese CIG Motors Company Limited. The result of that agreement is now manifest with the launch of the new e-hailing taxi scheme. It's known as Lagos Ride, with 1,000 sport utility vehicles for the first phase. The scheme is expected to compete with other e-hailing platforms. The driver or operator has a right to own the vehicle after payment is fully made within 3 to 4 years. Governor Sanwo-Olu said the initiative is to further ensure a seamless transportation system for the commuting populace in the state.
Under this arrangement, all beneficiaries will be provided with a brand new car, which over time will become the driver's property after the completion of the payment of the vehicles that have been heavily subsidized.
The governor described the day as historic. He said it's a step to further drive the development of the Transportation Master Plan to put Lagos on the plan of a safer, comfortable, modern and forward-looking taxi scheme.
We are starting and we're putting our money down to show to the private sector that we can do it and we all can do it collaboratively. These are no workers of Lagos State. These are Lagosians, these are Nigerians that will be taking over this. So our arms are open to other private sector investors to join us to ensure that we can increase this fleet to 3,000, to 5,000, to 10,000.
Commissioner for Transportation Frederick Oladende highlighted some of the safety features of the scheme.
The safety and security of lives and property are equally as paramount as the pleasure the drivers or the riders will enjoy on the Lagos Ride taxi schemes. Hence, the installation of security embedded dashboard camera in each car for real-time activities and monitoring, with panic buttons connected to the control command center that can be used by either parties inside the car in case of assault or emergency.
Plus TV News spoke with some of the beneficiaries.
It was something that we saw that will be of benefit to drivers, especially to alleviate the challenges and the burdens that drivers have in terms of owning their cars.
The Modern Ride Service is one of the state government's social and get reduction in waste bill. That's a message from the Managing Director, CEO of Lagos Waste Management Authority, LOMA, Mr. Ibrahim Odumboni, to Lagosians. Odumboni said residents who comply would get reduction in waste bills and increase for those who don't. He added that LOMA was engaging recycling as a veritable tool to tackle the challenge of plastic pollution, as the state generated about 13,000 metric tons of waste daily, with plastic materials constituting 17%. Joining me shortly is the Managing Director, CEO of Lagos Waste Management Authority, LOMA, Mr. Ibrahim Odumboni, for more insight into how LOMA is complementing the Governor Sanwo-Olu's themes, agenda, and a dream of a smart mega city. Thus, after this break, please stay with us.
In terms of waste management, there are various chains in the various steps in the value chain of waste management that we need to ensure that a lot of cares are taken about, from point of generation, sorting your waste from source, containerization, collection, disposal and treatment, and also maybe waste to energy and waste to wealth. We need to ensure that that chain all connects very well. And part of the way we want to connect is to encourage this operation from source so that the end value will be there for everyone to see. Also, if you look at it, if we continue to sort our waste from source, we can tackle things like pollution, plastic pollution, and waste pollution in a couple of areas across the states. So if we look at Lagos has about 25 million plus people living in there, knowing fully well that each and every one of us will generate about 176 single bottle a year. And with that in mind, we have about 4 billion bottles generated annually. So if those 4 billion that has been generated annually are not captured or taken back to produce new ones, does that really mean that over the next 10 years we're going to do 40 billion bottles? What about the previous 40 billion bottles that we have? So we can't continue in that vein that vein. We need to change the way we live. We need to modernize. We are an emerging economy in Lagos, and I know that we are a pace setter for other states in Nigeria. So talking to our people to ensure that they separate their entire waste from source is going to be a massive push towards achieving a smarter city and the team's agenda. So for us, we cannot continue to depend on the landfill structure where everything goes to the landfill. We should be able to extract all the usable resources from our waste before we consider landfill as an option. And I know that there will be a point from our plan over the next 10 years to ensure that we achieve a zero waste in Lagos as an emerging economy in Africa and as a pace setter for other states and other countries around us as well. And for our household, the reason why we initiated that from the 1st of April, all residential estates and companies or private organizations should start is because before we roll it out to everyone across the state, we believe those are organized environments where it's controllable and achievements are measurable as well. And we've also seen that a lot of these our communities, since the introduction of Blue Box scheme, which gave back to Lagos Recycle, was initiated on the 5th of September 2019. We've seen a couple of estates start doing one form or the other of recycling. But now we're formalizing it. We're encouraging them to ensure that the waste are not commingled. We're also encouraging them to use a two-bin system where there's a general waste and there's a recyclable waste. And we want to ensure that all our recyclables are also used to generate jobs. A lot of jobs have been generated from recycling over the last 24 months. Over 6,000 jobs and counting. And we believe that there will be effects on our lagoons and shorelines and our drainages. There will be a time where you won't be able to see any single bottle in our drainages, in our canal, and water could flow easily. And all the marine habitats, we have the freedom to develop without having to be also accommodating plastics or floatables among them. Paying for waste management is sacrosanct. It's not free. Because the people that are running are the people that are going for you, catering for your domestic waste all across. LOMA, as an agency and Lagos State, we cater for the public spaces, and we regulate all the private businesses or private residential properties that they service. But these businesses are there as a business that we are building to grow. We don't want any of them to be a going concern. So if people are resisting to pay to them, it's basically you're denying them the opportunity to be able to transact. And I want to also state that we have a enforcement and monitoring team that ensure that when we have cases like that, our what do people call wole-woles, our health officers are there to support the CDAs, the CDCs, to be able to tackle or mitigate against any of this cause and manage the situation when we have any tenement or any household that's having the issue of waste management. And in situations whereby it's gone beyond management, then we have a legal system that backs that. So the legislative arm of Lagos State also backs us over 28 magistrate courts. There's no room for ignorance. There's no room for excuses. We've now gone all the way. We created Loma Academy to be able to educate people and create awareness. All our public primary schools in Lagos, through the support with SUBEB and Mr. Governor, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, we've been able to educate them on waste management. And they are going to be our ambassadors, our advocates for the parents that they are under, to be able to ensure that we try and change from bottom up, while we continue to use publicity, media outreach, like this conversation, to let our adults understand and also remind them of their responsibility. But all in all, there is no excuse for ignorance in waste management. We do a lot of things across stream, and it's always out there, and that's why we highlight it for all stakeholders, all interested parties, to be able to understand where we are and where we stand at this point in time. We've been very innovative, and we've been very proactive about the way we approach waste management in Lagos over the last 2 years, by showcasing ourselves and ensuring that a lot of ways we're communicating to people with what we're doing. So we have our social media handles, our website, our app, and also we collaborate with other agencies to make sure that our message are passed across. There is no day that you will not hear about Loma, either in the news, or you see us, or with our PSPs, or with our sweepers that are on the road. But the key thing that I must stress out there is waste management goes beyond collection and dumping of waste. The only part of it that we need to all work on, which is me, you, and all our listeners out there, is the attitudinal change. You can deploy the entire trucks in the whole world to Lagos to manage waste. But if we don't change our attitude, if we don't start doing the right thing the first time, if we don't start doing what we know that is proper, if we don't start following what the law says, if we don't start looking after ourselves, if we don't start changing our attitude to what a cleaner environment is, we all know this. We all know the benefit of a tidy environment. We all know the benefit of what clean environment brings to in terms of health. We all know all these things. So, but why are we still doing the wrong thing? So that's why we continue to advocate. You see, Loma, we've started going across all the LCDA this year. We've been to 18 LCDAs out of the LCD and LGA out of the 57, and we'll continue to ensure that all that is completed before the first week of June. And what do we do there? We go there, we sensitize them across the chain of waste management, from collection, generation, separation, containerization, recycling, treatment, and also the loads of achievements that we made. One of the major ones is you look at COVID-19. Without Loma, where do you think we'll be with COVID-19? Lagos as a very popular populated state. What do you think we'll be with COVID-19? With a small landmass, all surrounded by water, everybody conjugating as one. What impact? What role do you think Loma played? So for people out there, a lot of people out there understand that we played a vital role to support our governor, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, ensuring that COVID-19 was mitigate against the risk of COVID-19. We started reintegrating all our medical waste during the period of COVID-19 till date. So we take all the medical waste all across the state and ensure that they are all incinerated. We moved away from traditional treatment of medical waste. We also ensure that we have a dedicated team that are trained and specialists in this. And by doing so, we're able to reduce all the risk across. We've also used that to develop and automate our system in terms of management of waste. We've looked at the need for us to regionalize our operation. So we divide our operation into 5 different districts, and then we manage from there. So if you tell me now what's going on in Ekpe or Badagry, with a click of a finger, I can tell you exactly what's there because I have Loma operatives there. So we've done a lot across. We've reformed some of our legacy programs, like the sweeping program is all being reformed. Our engineering team is now functioning as a solely made in Nigeria engineering team. We make our bins ourselves, we design our trucks ourselves, we assemble our truck ourselves, we fix our truck ourselves, we're making things ourselves rather than buying and maintaining. So a lot of changes across. But for us, I think one of the reflections that we have in waste management is we have a lot of, Lagos has a very big advantage over every other state in Nigeria in terms of waste management, in terms of the fact that the human capital and the stakeholder around it are very knowledgeable and passionate about it. Starting from the governor, he understands it very well and he provides a lot of mentorship and leadership and coaching for us on waste management. So it's given. We have a governor that waste management is given to. Then I have a lot of management team or senior executive team in Loma, and even all the junior staff in here. We are all very scientific about everything we do. And sustainability is very key to us. So a lot of things I've known, a lot of things I've learned, a lot of things I'm learning. There's no end time to learning in waste management. And all these people that have been in this practical over the years are now having the benefit of having someone from the economic side of things, from the technical side, coming in to inject a lot of sustainability into what we're doing. So I really appreciate the opportunity this gives. But for Lagosians, it just basically demonstrates what the future holds for us. Waste management is never going to be the same. Every year, year in, year out, there will be changes that we are making for a better living for Lagos as a whole. I'm very confident that by the end of this year, we have an MOU in place for our first energy facility in Lagos. But I must state that in Lagos, the energy facility that we're going to have in Lagos, we'll try and find the best sustainable at a very affordable cost and also strategically placed for the state. We're also going to look at what fits. We are not going to use one size fits all, but we're going to choose the best proponent, the most active proponents, and the more realistic proponent to be able to deliver that to us. We've reached a time whereby 100% of what we have in waste can be put to use. And in putting that to use, it is very important that we understand what our future goals are. Our future goal for waste management is to have an energy plant in Lagos, which is our immediate goal in this year. And then to ensure that over the next 3 or 4 years, we start to help to solve some of the energy problems that we have in entirety across the state. And in 10 years' time, we should be able to have replicated what we've done across certain parts of Nigeria and look at movable energy. If you look at the team's agenda, one of the key agencies that was mentioned in the team's agenda, if you really digest it, is LOMA. LOMA was mentioned as an agency on the team's agenda when looking at the health and environment. And it shows the importance of what we do here to every part of the agenda. And I believe that with the structure the team's agenda creates and the interlink that LOMA has with other agendas, we are on course to ensure that a successful delivery is given to all the ultimate goals of the agenda. And I can well assure you that we're given the opportunity to innovate, develop, evolve, be dynamic, and challenge the norm in LOMA. And that's why we are here where we are now. On a daily basis, we challenge the norm. We go to look at status quo. What do we need to change there? What do we need to improve? If it's not broken, sometimes we leave it. But if it needs to be fixed, we go all out and find out the root cause and how can we make sure that the changes that we are making is sustainable. And I can tell you out there, part of the smart city agenda and the team's agenda is to ensure that we're not just doing it and it's just not coming from somebody's head or somebody's thought or somebody's ideology. We are now professionalizing what we're doing. So I'm happy to tell you that even all my management team and my junior management team will be proceeding on a sustainability and circular economy training for them to be certified as waste manager for the state. And what that does is it creates sustainability for LOMA for the future and also builds on from what our governor's agenda is in Lagos State.
That's all we have for you in this episode of the Greater Lagos Vision on Plus TV Africa. I'm Love Ikuku Oyedoku. Bye for now.
Life can be fun and rewarding, but it also comes with some risk. As in business, you win some, you lose some. And that's why you need to be wise in the choices you make. It's like placing a bet. Again, you need to be wise. Wise in choosing an innovative platform with the highest market options and highest odds ever. That's why Winners Golden Bet, the leader in online, in-shop, virtual, and live sports betting, gives you enhanced platforms that offer you the best chances of winning. For betting on live soccer matches, live dog races, and virtual games. Winners Golden Bet is your best bet. Instant payment of winnings guaranteed. Play online or in any of our numerous shops nearest to you.
Hey guys, be wise. Play on Winners Golden Bet.
Winners Golden Bet, the wise choice.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the barbing, I pay my rent. On the barbing, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
I will do everything to take Lagos out of the national grid.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
He suffered equally confessed.
Now 500 naira they collect them.
If you no talk, then go beat you.
Now 2,500 they pay.
On Plus TV News Now, President Buhari receives visiting UN Secretary General with discussions on terrorism, food security, and Russia-Ukraine conflict. Students' unions protest against continuous ASU strike, block major roads in Benin City. At least 20 people die as bus veer off-road in eastern Uganda. Good evening. I am Maureen Menongwe-Zigwe, and this is News Now. President Muhammadu Buhari and the visiting Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, today engaged in talks bordering on war against terrorism, food security, and other international issues. He welcomed Guterres at the State House at about 3 p.m. before going into closed-door discussions on matters affecting Nigeria, Africa, and the world at large. Guterres, who arrived in Nigeria on a 2-day visit, was in Maiduguri, Borno, where he interacted with victims and repentant Islamist militants on Tuesday. He is visiting Nigeria for the first time since he assumed duty as UN Secretary General. He had, before the meeting with President Buhari, performed a wreath-laying ceremony for victims of the 2011 bombing at Nigeria's UN house in Abuja.
There's really no true solution to the problem of global food security without bringing back the agricultural production of Ukraine and the food and fertilizer production of Russia and Belarus into world markets despite the war. And I'm determined to do everything to facilitate the dialogue that can help achieve this objective.
Coming at a time when the entire global attention is focused on the unfortunate situation in Ukraine, we in this region are feeling already that the world is forgetting about us. There can be no better assurance that the world is with us as we confront extremist terrorist organizations, hunger, and the enormous problems of dealing with millions of displaced people than this important visit.
Paul Ejima, an international affairs expert, join us now to take a look at the significance of this visit. Good evening, Mr. Ejima.
Thank you, Maureen. Thank you for having me.
So why does Nigeria need to wait for Russia and Ukraine for food sustenance?
Well, that is part of the governance problem that Africa, not just Nigeria, but Africa, they have had to deal with. That they are not self-sufficient in food production. And so you have to depend on those who can produce, and then you continue to buy. You remember that recently there was talk about rice pyramid and all that. What has happened is that Nigeria has taken eyes off the ball. Nigeria is an agricultural country, but has really left all that. Remember the story about the palm tree and palm kernel and palm oil. The Malaysians came to Nigeria and then they took the knot, and now they are the world's greatest exporter, while Nigeria is still maybe becomes a net importer. So it is about policy, about governance, about being able to put your house in order, to grow what you can eat, and then live, even export. Nigeria can do that. Remember the days of the granite pyramid? You had coal in cocoa in the west, where you had cocoa building, and then the palm oil that we're talking about in the east. So, but all that, Nigeria is doing a catch-up. It's about system failure and policy failure. So that should be addressed. So Nigeria does not have any reason to depend on anybody, let alone Ukraine or Russia for food.
So what are the foreseeable gains of the meeting today between President Buhari and the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres?
Well, remember this is the first time the Secretary General visited Nigeria. Took office in 2017 and has been to a number of African countries, even to Togo nearby. And this one, he's been to Senegal and then Niger before coming to Nigeria. What can Nigeria get from there is about talk and then maybe promises about what the UN can do. But really, what the UN can do because of the agency, you have the World Food Program, you have all those that are affiliated to the international organization that have been helping and can also help. You have the World Health Organization. So all these are UN systems that can, and that is their role, actually, because belonging to these organizations means that you have to benefit from them. So it's not just so much that they are doing Nigeria a favor or any other country, because you are a member, and that is what it's like an umbrella that's supposed to cover you when there is rain. But what has happened is that, like the president was saying, that it looks like Africa is not on the radar. Look at the kind of international mobilization that has come behind Ukraine. You wonder, what about the conflicts that have been happening in Africa? What about malaria, for instance? Malaria kills more people than all the international conflicts put together. Every hour, a child under 5 dies, or, a woman with pregnancy. So, but what has happened? The world has not even as much as come with a vaccine that can really be the what you can use, the bullet, silver bullet that you can use to stop this deadly disease. But when it was COVID, everybody's rushing, within 1 year or so, they were able to come up with a vaccine. So Africa, but you don't really have to blame the outsiders. I think much of it is about leadership in Africa. African leaders, Africa is not zero poor and can fend for itself, can feed itself. But what has happened is that it has leaders that are not, that are taking their eyes off the ball. They are selfish. They are, corrupt. They are, fending after themselves and their family and their tribes and their religious groups, instead of taking care of the collective. All the money that Africa makes, you talk about corruption, they even warehouse some of this money abroad, outside, and then, and then go outside there to enjoy the money. I mean, how can people behave that way? Maybe it's a case of some mental problem that Africa has. Africa has a lot, more than it has, enough to feed itself and then take care of all its needs. But what you have, conflicts here and there, 5 African countries are being governed by military as we speak. And then terrorism is there, ready to there. And then, it's one conflict or the other. Disease, conflict, wars. That is what Africa has become known for, which is unfortunate.
Well, is Nigeria doing enough to pull its supply weight in the global community, would you say? Is Nigeria doing enough to pull its supply weight in the global community?
Well, I think that question is, the answer is there, in the air. The country used to play a major part in the past when it was, when using the oil, petroleum dollar, oil dollar to affect and effect international relations, making sure that many countries in Africa got their independence. Countries like Zimbabwe, Namibia, even apartheid in South Africa, Nigeria was instrumental to bringing it, to an end. But what has happened today? Even at the ECOWAS, look at the ECOWAS level. I think Nigeria should do more to bring its weight. And then it can't be about potential. Nigeria has always been described as a country with great potential. But potentials cannot translate by themselves into greatness. You need to make it work. You need to walk the talk. You need to apply it. Make all those human resources. And then what do you find? And the rest of the world, particularly Africa, is waiting for Nigeria to wake up, to lead.
Thank you.
And then the world too. Everybody is waiting. But when will Nigeria rise? That is the question.
Well, thank you, Mr. Paul Ejima. He is an international affairs expert who's joined us to take a look at the significance of the visit of the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me on.
The police command in Ebonyi has assured citizens and visitors to Ebonyi of adequate security during President Muhammadu Buhari's visit to the state tomorrow. The Commissioner of Police in the state, Aliyu Garba, made the disclosure on Wednesday in Abakaliki while briefing newsmen after his meeting with heads of security agencies in the state. Garba said that modalities had been put in place to ensure a hitch-free visit of the president. Students' unions of different universities in Edo State have asked the federal government to address issues raised by ASU, or they will mobilize to disrupt forthcoming general elections in the country. The students made this known in Benin City, the state capital, as they protested along major roads in the state. They fault the inability of the federal government to resolve the lingering strike embarked upon by ASU.
Just want to express our grievances, our displeasure as regards the ongoing ASU strike. The truth is, we are not for ASU, neither are we fighting against anybody. All we know and all we want is going back to our classes. You know, as it stands now, we have been stagnated in our academics. We have been at home for 71 days and nobody is saying anything about it. The government is going about their electoral processes while the evil ASUs are going about their individual businesses, but forgetting that we are the young Nigerians, we are students and we want to graduate. Our parents might not have been good or rich enough to fly us abroad for academics, just like every other senators, just like every other House of Rep member that their kids are around in Canada, USA studying.
We want to pass a message to them that we want this strike to end. Students are tired, parents are tired, we are the receiving end. You can imagine when I was in 100 level, I had no beards. I'm reading a 6-year course, this is my 5th year, and I've spent nothing less than 7 years plus in university.
We are here today in the University of the Street because for many months, the federal government has kept us at home while they begin to pursue their political ambitions. We want to send a very strong warning to the federal government that they should quickly resolve this lingering ASU strike, because the largest intellectual army is no longer comfortable with the trend and with the way the federal government is handling this particular process. When the student is at home, and the most shocking part of it is that there is no public servants, political leaders. None of the children's school here in Nigeria, so they can afford to lock up university for so many years without even having recourse to care about their education. Today, we spend trillions of naira budget for security instead of channeling that money to healthcare and education. Why? The neglect to fund the educational sector in Nigeria have brought the level of insurgencies and criminality and banditry and terrorism that we have seen in Nigeria.
We are tired of staying at home. This is my 4th year being in school and I'm staying here. This is it's so frustrating. And these people, they don't really know how we feel because all their children, they are busy there, going to private university, overseas university, so they don't really know how it feels. How it feels like now, somebody have paid, what they call it, house rent. It's as people that we have been paying and we're paying. How does it feel like I don't even know how to say. I'm really frustrated right now. I'm really frustrated.
Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has taken his presidential campaign to Adamawa and Taraba states to woo APC delegates ahead of the party primaries. Osinbajo was received by Governors Darius Ishaku of Taraba and Amadu Umaru Fintiri, both of the PDP, at the airport before he headed for the scheduled meeting. At the end of the closed-door meeting, VP commended the conduct of the delegates, who assured him of total support in the coming presidential primary. Fielding questions from newsmen shortly afterwards, Osinbajo expressed satisfaction with the turnout of the delegates. Some delegates who spoke with reporters expressed their views on the outcome of the meeting and said the VP remains the aspirant to beat. He also visited the palace of Lamido of Adamawa for royal blessings.
Very good. As you can see for yourself, the support here is very, very commendable. I'm really excited to see all of our party members who are here, and we've had a very useful discussion. We've been able to talk about a wide variety of issues. So we're all looking forward to much progress in our country. All is well.
He has been warmly received, and he saw the delegates and has given his message to the delegates. So the delegates wish him well, and we wish him very safe journey back to Abuja.
And we're impressed with the response from the delegates. We have been interacting with them for quite some time, and we are now convinced, beyond reasonable doubt, that on the 30th of this month, they are going to give Professor Yemi Osinbajo the votes. Yeah.
Again, women in their numbers converged on Akure, the capital of Ondo State, to demonstrate their support for the candidacy of Governor Yaya Bello of Kogi State in the 2023 presidential election. The women defied the heavy rain this morning, taking to the streets. They were chanting solidarity songs and carrying various placards with inscriptions such as Yaya Bello, the best man for the job. We are not interested in zoning. This is one Nigeria, among others.
They make woman leader. There's only one position for women in our political parties, and that is the position of woman leader. When you consider that my mother was personally financing NADECO, was personally financing the June 12 movement when my father was put in jail, was gone down because of our efforts, you have to ask yourself, and not just her, other women activists like Dr. Joe Oke-Odumake, who was in jail multiple times, even Stiliat Adedeji in Ibadan, who was killed. So many women paid the ultimate price for Nigeria's democracy. Why are the men excluding these women? And as they exclude the women, are they doing particularly well? Women have so much to contribute, and this is a man who all his heads of service since he has been in office for 6 years have been women.
The number of female National Assembly, Senate and House of Rep member we want, this is an era of negotiation with our men to give us our rights. This is the era that women want to take their destiny by their hands and fight for their rights. The so-called men have failed us.
Because Yaya Bello is giving women a platform. Like in the history of Nigeria, we've never had that a woman is a DG of a campaign of a presidential team. That's a big one. And when you look at what he's doing in Kogi State, all I want is somebody who will give women a platform to exhibit all our visions, because we have a lot to do to push this country forward than where it is now.
Recently, it's because women fought to have their 33% at the National Assembly. It was already scrapped. If not for the fact that the women actually got up and said, no, you want to strip us of our rights, they wouldn't have reversed it. So we need women in politics.
Popular Ijaw youth leader Ebimebowe Kalasino Titus has joined the race to represent the people of Southern Ijaw Constituency 4 in the Bayelsa State House of Assembly. Kalasino is contesting on the platform of the APC and is calling on the Minister of State Petroleum Resources, Timipre Silva, to ensure the youth is allowed to fly the party's ticket. Our correspondent Jesse Esse has the details.
Ebimebowe Titus is the latest aspirant to indicate interest to represent the people of the oil-rich communities in the legislative arm of government. Currently serving as Director of Operations of the Movement for Survival of his own ethnic nationality in the Niger Delta Mosend, he is joined by friends and supporters from the Ijaw struggle as he marches to pick his nomination form. He gives reasons behind his ambition.
We are all youths, and we have suffered in this struggle, and we have paid our dues in this struggle, and we are seeing that things is not going well. So we are taking this. I'm not taking this thing for myself. This one is for the youth, for the less privileged, for the widows, and for the orphans. That is why we are taking this, so that we can take democracy to the less privileged in the society. We want to go back to the grassroots. We want to go back to the grassroots and develop our areas, because as they long, the development go to our area. So we the youth, we know the problem. And me as a person, I am going because I'm a youth, I am from the struggle. I know the pains of the youth. I know the pains of my people. So I am coming to take this mandate that to tell my people, look at what you are going to do, so that we the youth will contribute ourselves to bring the democracy to our level. Timipre Silva, the Petroleum State Minister, I am asking to give the youth the new face, the opportunity to go for that area and bring the victory for APC. Because we are the people, the grassroots, and the people there are clamoring for us to come in.
Some supporters also give reasons for throwing their weights behind him.
But he's one of the founding members of the party in the world. He has worked tirelessly. He has also worked for so many aspirants. At the same time, again, he has the structure. He has the youth, he has the women, he also has the trust bodies. They are all yearning for him.
Kalasino is a good man, first of all. I'm not supporting Kalasino based on because I'm in APC. I'm not supporting Kalasino because Kalasino is the best. I'm supporting Kalasino in the sense that Kalasino is a grassroots man. And Kalasino, from his early age, is doing things with the grassroots, making sure that all youths are okay in Bayelsa State, not only Stanejo. The man has shown capacity, the man has worked for people.
Having taken the bold step to represent his people, Kalasino is hopeful of enjoying the support of family, friends and supporters from his ward, the IYC and Mosien, where he has been on the forefront agitating for resource control. Jesse Ese, Plus TV News, Yanagua.
And it was a mixed reaction in Abuja today for the concerned Nigerian citizens group when they took their protest to the national headquarters of the two major political parties. It's on the need to adopt the zoning formula for the presidential ticket, which they say must be zoned to the south. While the APC accepted the letter with a promise to act on it, the People's Democratic Party bluntly refused to accept the letter. Emmanuel Ehijene's report is presented from our studio.
This civil society group took its protest over zoning of the presidential ticket to the southern part of the country to the national headquarters of the two leading political parties. First point was the PDP, with protesters carrying placards with various inscriptions demanding that the party shift power to the south. But the group was disappointed with the reception it got as the party refused to accept the letter.
I want to declare to the public and gentlemen of the press that the conspiratorial element that constitutes the leadership of the People's Democratic Party have denied us an opportunity to talk to them in the public and discuss this crucial matter with them, which is a sense of high-level conspiration against the wish of the masses. They have only shown to us that they are not a friend of the people of Nigeria. We are moving further to the All Progressive Congress Party Secretariat to make our position known.
But it was a different situation at the APC headquarters, where the group was warmly received by the members of the National Working Committee of the party.
We thank you for your letter dated the 4th of April, 2022, which has a title, an appeal demand for the zoning of your party's presidential ticket to the southern Nigeria. Our party has yet to make any decision regarding the subject matter of your letter. And that is still the position, which I reiterate even now, that we have yet to make a decision. As soon as that decision is made, you will be the first to know. So I thank you so much for your visit.
Different from what happened in the People's Democratic Party Secretariat, the leadership of the All Progressive Congress have deemed it fit to meet us, which we have to appreciate. This paper is titled An Appeal to the Demand for the zoning of your party's presidential ticket to the south. It is highly explicit and we demand expediency in implementation. Thank you very much, sir.
Just yesterday, the group had a world press conference where it discussed zoning of the presidential ticket to the southern part of the country.
Also in Ogun State politics, twists and turns are appearing as momentum is gathering towards the 2023 general elections. Some of the factions loyal to the former governor, Ibukun Amosu, have now returned to Governor Dapo Abiodun. They promised to work with the governor to restore the lost glory of the state. They were led by Amosun's Commissioner for Health, Dr. Babatunde Ikpaye. We now have him joining us on Zoom. Dr. Babatunde Ikpaye, good evening.
Good evening.
Well, you are the public health and development specialist and a professional in politics. Well, you have been very invaluable to Ogun State politics, especially at the Ijebu grassroots. How do you intend using your skills to, gather success for your party come 2023?
Well, thank you. Like you noticed me, I'm a public health specialist, and I'm also a development expert. I've been involved in community mobilization for various health system projects in Nigeria across diseases like TB, HIV, malaria, and co. I was also commissioner for health here, where I pioneered the community health insurance scheme in Ogun State and, institutionalized the health insurance scheme that the Abiodun administration has taken to scale. Because I also had established a hospital in Ijebuland when I was 25 years old, and that hospital, gave services across both for more than 15 years. And so. And I've been in the political space since 1999 as, an officer of the Alliance for Democracy in the state. I also led various campaign organizations.
Well, you have a very, very beautiful CV,
so
no doubt.
So we are here, grassroots mobilizer, born and bred in Ijebuland, and we'll do what we could for the present governor to be re-elected.
Okay, so you used to work with the WHO. How will this aspect of your sphere of influence benefit the state now that you are back?
Well, I have consulted for WHO on several occasions. I never really did work for WHO. I wrote on behalf of WHO the last COVID grant for Nigeria. Nigeria won $172 million. But I work for various other organizations. I work for the World Bank. I've worked for UK DFID. I work for Fairfield Child 360, I work for various NGOs. And so the experience that brings into context is that I'm able to understand the political economy of development, and of course, how human services can be extended to people both within the urban and particularly the hard-to-reach areas of Ogun State. And of course, when you do the kind of work that I do, you actually see Nigerians in the practical terms, not the cosmopolitan terms. And engaging people and linking them to the kind of development that the new administration is doing is very essential, as we move forward. And if you look at the Ishaya mantra of the Abiodun administration, which I've studied over time, even when I was on the other side, there's a component that represents health, which is about social, security and social inclusion, and of course, the social welfare and well-being of the people of Ogun State, which cuts across their sector, social safety nets, and of course, helping people to link into the small, medium-scale industries, and mobilizing, ordinary Nigerians who live in Ogun State to be empowered to, come out of the poverty level. And so my work, and of course, because I work in those areas, I'm also able to, help the state source for some development support across donor communities from the World Bank to Global Fund to DFID. And in the next couple of months, I will do the bit I told you to bring some of my friends within the development community to Ogun State.
Well, you are from the Ijebu part of the state. What's your encouragement to the people of Ijebu extraction in general, especially as they prepare for these elections?
Well, what encourages people of Ijebu is also the same thing that will encourage people from other senatorial districts. For the first time in recent time, we're seeing development across the 3 senatorial districts. And because your question is deliberately tilted towards my part of the state, which is the Ijebu area, I'll tell you that the people of this part of the state are witnessing, massive infrastructure development like never before. I can tell you the Epe Ijebu road is in the Ijebu part of the state, state of the art road that you would love to see. The airport is coming up, Agricultural Airport is coming up, and the governor had committed to making that happen before the end of this year. The Ilisho-Agowi road, for you to drive from, say, Shagamu to my part of the state, it takes you to Ijebu before now, but now you can just drive between Ilesha and Nagoya. That road has been unattended to for decades, and so people, the inter-community roads are being tagged by this present administration, and people are able to bring their produce, their farm produce, to the cities. And so for me, the people of Ijebuland have seen a lot of development in terms of infrastructure, in terms of housing, in terms of education, in terms of agri sector.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Babatunde Ekpaye. Thank you so much. Time would not permit us to go any further, but thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, thank you for the privilege to continue.
Well, it is very appalling that a country that has failed to provide security to the people it governs is embarking on a suicide mission of criminalizing ransom payment by helpless victims. This was a submission of the chairman of the Nigerian Bar Association section on Public Interest and Development Law, NBA Spittle Monday Ubani, during a press conference held in Lagos. Plus TV News correspondent Love Ikukoyedeku tells us more in this report.
This press conference was to herald the NBA Spidell Annual Conference stated for 22nd to 26th May 2022 in Sokoto State. But the convener and chairman of NBA Spidell, Barrister Monday Ubani, took a leave from the event to comment on what he calls urgent national issues. He took a swipe at the Senate for attempting to criminalize payment of ransom to kidnappers to free victims.
NBA Spidell condemns unequivocally the attempt by our national legislators to criminalize ransom payment by victims of kidnapping without tackling the root cause of kidnapping in the first place. Law ought to reflect reality in any given society. The truth of the matter is that victims of kidnapping pay ransom out of desperation and abject helplessness, knowing fully well that the state has failed and is unable to protect lives and property or secure the release of their loved ones from the kidnappers' den.
Barrister Ubani said the piece of legislation under contemplation lacks logic and wisdom, calling on the House of Representatives to jettison the bill without any further consideration.
It is very appalling, therefore, that the same country that has failed to provide security to the people it governs is embarking on a suicide mission of criminalizing ransom payment by the very victims that are helpless and desperate to save the lives of their loved ones. It does not make any sense at all. Instead, the legislature is strongly advised to focus our laws that will strengthen national security and protection of lives and properties, assuming that there is a lacuna.
The Nigerian Senate on Wednesday, the 27th of April 2022, passed a bill imposing jail terms of at least 15 years for paying a ransom to free someone who has been kidnapped. The upper legislative chamber also made the crime of abduction punishable by death in cases where victims dies in life imprisonment in other cases. Okpeyemi Bamidele, chairman of the Senate Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Committee, told the Senate on Wednesday that making ransom payment punishable with lengthy jail sentences will discourage the rising spate of kidnapping and abduction for ransom in Nigeria, which is fast spreading across the country. From Lagos, Love Ikuku Oyedoku, Plus TV News.
There is the need for professionals in the built environment to form strong advocacy against quackery and sharp practices. The tide of incessant building collapse in the country must be stemmed. This formed part of the submission of stakeholders at the 13th edition of the Lagos Architect Forum. Justin Akadenya reports that the forum brought together architects and other professionals to share thoughts on the theme, The City of Lagos. What is Lagos? Details in this report.
Lagos is the fourth capital of Nigeria, known for its uniqueness as an economic hub, high-flying business hub, and a city that has long captivated people from all over the world. However, these architects have converged to share ideas and critical insights to effectively midwife a livable and sustainable Lagos state.
We try to analyze the physical development within the city of Lagos and see how we can get government to key into some of the suggestions that as professionals we think they should key into.
When we talk of the thriving city in the world, these are cities that never sleep.
What it is all about is to synergize, to interact with the private sector, the public sector, the manufacturers, the suppliers of building materials.
In recent times, incidences of building collapses have become recurring, even with a city as commercial as Lagos. As one wonders how this tide can be stemmed, government is advised to ensure monitoring, as enforcement does not stop when approval is given. The professionals believe that state government should domesticate the national building code, as well as show political will to stop the menace.
The building code actually has some compliance forms built into the document, such that at various stages of the development of the building, you have relevant professionals signing off at different stages.
Are we shying away from our responsibilities? Are we ready to take up our responsibilities? And to be honest with you, please be ready for more collapses, because if we are not ready to do the right thing, then be sure that these tragedies will continue to occur.
Until we can have a proper governance structure on the construction process, where we start to track who designs, who supervises, what are the stages of construction, what are the stages of certification, and it's available on a digital platform. This is why this is Lagos.
The NIA assures that it will continue in its advocacy role as watchdogs to promote best practices in the building procurement process to avert ugly consequences of building failures and collapses. Justin Akadonia, Plus TV News, Lagos.
Still ahead, cooking plant explosion in Ukraine kills 10 workers. Details when we return. Welcome back. You're still watching News Now on Plus TV Africa. And at least 20 people died when a bus veered off a rural road in the East African country of Uganda. Dozens of other passengers were injured in the incident that took place in the west of the country. A police spokesman, Vincent Skusieye, told reporters that the bus had been traveling too fast and was overloaded. Burundi's military said on Wednesday that 10 of its African Union peacekeepers were killed in an attack on their base in Somalia. This was while a security source in the region and a Mogadishu-based source said dozens were dead. Burundi State Television quoted Army spokesperson Follerbert Bayakereke saying that 25 other soldiers were wounded in Tuesday's raid on a camp near the village of El Baraf in central Somalia, while 20 Al-Shabaab terrorists were also killed. The security source in the region said several follow-up operations were going on after Al-Qaeda-linked Al-Shabaab militants overran the camp the previous day. The European Union today termed Mali's decision to back out of defense agreements with France as regrettable. A spokesman for the EU's Commission for Foreign Affairs said the decision would weaken the fight against militants in the country. Bamako on Monday slammed what it called flagrant violations of its sovereignty by French troops. Relations between Bamako and Paris deteriorated further with the coming of power of army rulers in 2020. And Defense Minister Christine Lundberg says Germany will end its participation in the European Union training mission in Mali, but is ready to continue with the UN peacekeeping mission in the country under certain conditions. Lambert said this after a cabinet meeting in Merseburg. She's expecting the UN to create conditions for them to continue their involvement in MINUSMA. And Dansk Region Police released a video today. It said shows an attack at a cooking plant of Ukraine's largest steelmaker in the eastern frontline city of Uvdka, in which 10 workers were killed. The workers were killed at a bus stop yesterday as they waited for a bus to take them home after they finished their shift at the factory. The video showed an explosion and people running to take cover as explosions were heard, as well as damage to the surrounding area and what appeared to be a number of body bags being placed in a van. Steelmaker Martin Vest said today that it had offered to evacuate staff from the cooking plant after the Russian shelling. The video was released on the police force's official YouTube channel. 26 people were killed in a collision in the Rivne region of western Ukraine involving a bus, a minibus, and a fuel truck that exploded after the crash. The bus had been heading to Poland. It's not clear whether it was carrying any people fleeing the war in Ukraine following Russia's invasion. The dead from Tuesday's collision included 24 passengers and the drivers of both the bus and the minibus. 12 others were hurt, including the driver of the fuel truck. French President Emmanuel Macron welcomed Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Paris for talks and a working dinner on Wednesday evening, hoping to praise New Delhi away from Russia over the invasion of Ukraine. The two men embraced and posed for press photos as Modi arrived in the courtyard of the Élysée Palace, where he was also greeted by Macron's wife, Brigitte. The Czech Republic will seek an exemption period to the European Union's proposed embargo of Russian oil, gaining time for pipeline capacities to be increased. The Czech government will be able to support the proposed ban if given 2 or 3 years to prepare. The European Commission on Wednesday proposed a phased oil embargo on Russia, along with other tough measures to punish Moscow for its invasion of Ukraine. The measures include phasing out supplies of Russian crude oil within 6 months and refined products by the end of 2022. And U.S. President Joe Biden today escalated his rhetorical attacks on the Republican Party and rebuked former President Donald Trump's enduring grip over the GOP.
Good afternoon. What happens if you have a state changes the law saying that children who are LGBTQ can't be in classrooms with other children? Is that legit under the way the decision is written? What are the next things that are going to be attacked? Because this MAGA crowd is really the most extreme political organization that's existed in American history, in recent American history.
Up next, Nigerians to pay more as telecoms operators plan 40% tariff hike. Well, that's in business news after this short break.
And in business news, the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, and Russia are some of the international interests showing willingness to buy into the Nigeria-Morocco gas pipeline project. The federal government has said. A Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Timothy Silvers, noted that the project will not be completed before the expiration of the administration. He said the government is shopping for funding partners to extend the West African gas pipeline project from Ghana to Morocco and connect it to the European markets. And telecommunication companies are proposing a 40% increase in the cost of calls, SMS and data to the Nigerian Communications Commission as a result of the rising cost of running a business in the nation. Based on their proposal, the price floors of calls will increase from 6.4 naira to 8.95, while the price cap of SMS will increase from 4 naira to 5 naira 61 kobo. And according to them, the telecommunication industry has been financially impacted following the nation's economic recession in 2020 and the effect of the ongoing Ukraine-Russia crisis. And the Nigerian Economic Summit Group NESG is set to hold a national dialogue to discuss challenges facing Nigeria's economy as well as find long-term solutions. According to the group, the dialogue is necessary as a wide array of socio-economic challenges that besets the Nigerian economy has clearly shown that the country cannot rely on the business as usual practice and must instead embrace a more holistic approach to finding lasting solutions to the nation's array of problems. A statement released by the group in Abuja noted that an urgent turnaround in policy choices and economic management is required to achieve improved socio-economic outcomes, which is why there is no better time than now for the country to make good choices that will proffer short and long-term solutions to the current economic situation. And oil prices jumped on Wednesday as the European Union, the world's largest trading bloc, spelled out plans to phase out imports of Russian oil, offsetting demand worries and top importer China. Brent crude futures rose $3.99 or 3.8% to $108.96 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate crude futures rose $4.05 or 4% to $106.46 per barrel. A European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has proposed a phased oil embargo on Russia over its war in Ukraine, as well as sanctioning Russia's top bank in a bid to deepen Moscow's isolation. And that's Business News. Thanks for watching. I am Destiny Momo. The news continues.
Well, thank you, Destiny. Well, the very best in entertainment news is up next.
The Kardashian-Jenner have won a defamation case brought against them by Blac Chyna, the influencer, model, and former fiancé of Rob Kardashian. Chyna had claimed the reality TV star had ruined her career by convincing TV bosses to cancel her show, Rob and Chyna. But the famous family came out of the case worth $100 million victoriously with no damages awarded. A jury found that none of them had defamed Chyna, but they had acted in bad faith. Jurors found that the Kardashian-Jenner were not qualified in telling the makers of Rob and Chyna that Chyna abused their son and her partner, Rob. U.S. stand-up comedian Dave Chappelle have been attacked on stage during a performance at the Hollywood Bowl in Los Angeles. Clips shared on social media showed someone running into the star. Further videos appeared to show the comic apparently unharmed after returning to the stage at the Netflix is a Joke festival. Chappelle faced criticism and protests last year when his Netflix special was accused of being transphobic. After running to the stage, the 40-year-old made light to the controversy, suggesting to the audience that the attacker was a trans man. Hollywood actress Amber Heard suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder as a result of intimate partner violence from her former husband, Pirates of the Caribbean star Johnny Depp, a psychologist testified. Dawn Huggies, a clinical and forensic psychologist, also said that Depp suffered from obsessive control and obsessive jealousy issues towards Heard during their highly volatile relationship. Huggies was the first witness to take the stand after Depp's lawyer rested their case in the defamation suit he filed against Heard over an op-ed she wrote for the Washington Post in December 2018. The Nigerian Guide of Nigeria has demanded an autopsy on a Nollywood actress, Chinedu Bernard, who was confirmed dead in a hospital after she slumped while cleaning a church on Friday. In an Instagram post, Emeka Rollas demanded an autopsy on the late actress to ascertain the real cause of her death. According to him, many questions are yet to be answered concerning the actress' death. He wrote, "How can someone slump inside a church, sustained bruises on her face. Who are Chinedu's parishioner friends? Who are Chinedu's friends in Enugu, where she is practicing her craft? So it's either someone killed her or she took a suicidal substance and decided to die in the church. Autopsy must be conducted to ascertain the main cause of her death.
Now up next is sports news.
Hello and welcome to Sports News on Plus TV Africa. With the qualifying series for the 2023 Africa Cup of Nations set to begin in June, many Nigerians have expressed concern about the Nigeria Football Federation's delay in appointing a new coach for the Super Eagles since the departure of interim coach Austin Eguavoen in March. Following Nigeria's failure to qualify for the 2022 World Cup, Eguavoen stepped down as the Eagles' head coach. The NFF has yet to name a substantive coach for the Eagles since the dismissal of German Gernot Rohr in December. While it is believed that Portuguese Jose Peseiro is the front-runner to become the new head coach, several other names have been mentioned, including former Barcelona manager Ernesto Valverde, ex-PSG and France coach Laurent Blanc, and former PSV Eindhoven manager Marco van Basten. It will not come as a surprise to me if the Eagles don't qualify for the AFCON. Why can't we have a coach with just a month to the qualifiers? Emmanuel Adebayo said. Now, in Korogocho, one of Kenya's toughest slums, 18-year-old Chumbana Likiza and her training partner are sharpening their techniques by skating long and wide curves down a garbage-strewn street. Likiza is one of the best speed skaters in the country, a fringe sport in Kenya which most sports fans only know for its legendary mid to long distance runners. Skating is one of the world's fastest growing sports, but its popularity in Kenya is still catching up to global trends. Most young Kenyan skaters like Likiza look up to Sabrina Simanda, the only Kenyan that has ever taken part in an international competition. She participated in the 2018 Winter Olympic Games held in Pyeongchang, South Korea. There are no designated skate parks in Kenya, and women are also underrepresented. But according to skating promoter Edward Mwangi, there are clear signs that the tide is changing. Likiza, who started skating at the age of 3, is the reigning junior speed skating champion in Kenya and dreams of one day representing her national team in international competitions at a senior level.
Nilianza skate when I was 3 years. Hapo ndo nilianza kuskate, nikaenda Disai. I'm 18. Bado naendelea kuskate.
Skating industry in Kenya has been growing, has been thriving, as opposed to the common notion that it is a sport for the well-off. We were here to prove to you that it is a sport for all ages, for all economic backgrounds, for all tribes, for all religions. And in Kenya, we have had it for the number of years now. Mostly we do it in schools, in learning institutions, but we also have communities where they have roller skating, inline skating as their main sport.
Now, Ja Morant was on fire, scoring 47 points to help the Memphis Grizzlies tie the Golden State Warriors in the Western Conference semifinals. Dillon Brooks was ejected from the game after just 3 minutes at the FedEx Forum for a hard foul on Gary Payton II, shortly before Draymond Green was elbowed in the face. However, there was plenty of impressive scoring on display, with Morant's skill in the paint being a regular feature. The 22-year-old also had 8 rebounds and 8 assists to round out another outstanding performance at home. Steph Curry led the Warriors in scoring with 27 points, but they were wasteful in the game, committing 18 turnovers.
On the Brooks 3, Golden State still looking to crack the seal. Payton right down the middle, he's fouled hard. And Payton's in pain. He's grabbing the left arm. It was right at the end. Morant grabbed him initially, then Brooks got there late with the swipe, and he clubbed him on the side of the 8-1. Grizzlies in front. Curry tries to give it up for Green. He gets hit in the face, and he's down. 5-on-4. Melton, swing. Jackson, ball fake. Morant trying to take the baseline, and Green forced to leave the game after taking a shot to the face. Morant! And a foul is called. .135 on the clock. Curry takes it in. Snarled by Melton. Out of bounds. Big time block. 3-point lead for the Grizz. Green gives it up. Curry, 10 seconds on the shot clock. Travel. Turnover. Warriors. Shuffle of the feet. 18th turnover of the night.
And that's all the sports news we have for you for now. Join us next time. My name is Mikhail Tinubu. Have a good night.
And the main news again. President Buhari has received UN Secretary General with discussions on terrorism, food security, and Russia-Ukraine conflict. Students' unions protest against continuous ASU strike block major roads in Benin City. At least 20 people have died as bus veer off road in eastern Uganda. That's the news now. For more stories, please follow us on our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And do subscribe to our YouTube channel at Plus TV Africa and Plus TV Africa Lifestyle. I am Maureen Minong-Ezigwe. Many thanks for watching. Please, you did not put...
There is no voting on social media. To vote, you would require a permanent voter's card. To get your PVC, visit cvr.inecnigeria.org. Create your account with a valid email address and start the registration process. An activation link will be sent to you. Click on the link and activate your account. Fill out the form, pick and submit a convenient date and time for your biometrics. Print the application slip, which should have your QR code. On the appointed date, go to the nearest INEC office for your biometric capturing. Thereafter, you will get a registration slip to pick your permanent voter's card when ready. Get your PVC today. This message